Supervisors Standing Committees for Tuesday, March 28th. We're going to start off with Ways and Means. But before we do, I'd just like everybody on the committee, if we could, committees and supervisors in the room, to have a little more organization with the committees. If you could just make sure that you're recognized before you start talking so we don't have a free-for-all. And just like to have a little more orderly so everybody can hear and everybody understands what's going on. So, thank you. Supervisor Reynolds.
Thank you, Chairman Enzo. I will call the Ways and Means Committee together. First item is a presentation by the Honorable Les Marquette. Where are you, Lester? I gotta go with Les. We're going to give a presentation of the hotel motel tax money enforcement. Correct, Lester?
Evening, Les.
Good evening, everybody. In front of you, you'll find some paperwork. Jim Nicolini and I put that together for you. It's some graphs. It's something different. It's some graphs to show where everything's explained of where our short-term rentals and long-term rentals are in our hotel motels, what percentages from where we're collecting from. And currently we have 374 that are registered with us. That's about 91% that we have identified. Of course, that fluctuates over time, but the collection over that is about, what, 50 to 60%, I would say, is where we're, Bob explained that before, with the collection, how much we're actually collecting. Does anybody have any individual questions pertaining to their towns that they represent?
Can you pinpoint the towns, Les?
I don't have specific numbers, but we can do that. We can break it down, but we do not have that tonight.
Okay.
Yeah, can I just say something? Les has been working with host compliance, and I've been sitting in on the meetings. And if any town wants to know how many short-term rentals are in their town, Les can look it all up by zip code and get you the numbers probably within 48 hours. You know, working with host compliance and the computer, you can tell every town how many short-term rentals are in each town. So if you're interested in knowing about it, you can just call Les on the phone. He does have the capability working with host compliance now to be able to do that. The only reason I know that because I sit in with all the meetings with Les just trying to help him out. That's why I'm standing here.
You can break it down by town, though, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Yep. All right.
And
Is that by town or by zip code?
By both.
By both, okay.
And as of right now, we've collected almost $673,000 for this year. That's 3/4. We're waiting for one more payment, which should be coming in. And last year it was about $55,000 from Airbnb, so that should put us over the $700,000 mark. We're hoping, and next year should be even higher for collections.
Les, do you have the total collected for 21 and 22?
21 to 22 was $650,000, and 22 to 23 so far has been $672,000.
How much time left to go?
Till about April 20th. We're just waiting for one more. So right now we're plus $22,000 from the previous year to date. And we're looking at it, like I said, the 21 to 22, had about, our last payment was like $55,000 approximately from Airbnb, and that's the one we're waiting for. Because usually they lag behind about a month on that.
So, just so everybody understands, the way the bed tax works is it'll be the second, third, and fourth quarter of 2022 and the first quarter of 23. Is that the way it works?
That is correct. And Del Lago is actually, if you look in your sheets, the contribution from them has actually been about 25%, which is the highest of all the total collections. In the top 10 in your sheets also, the top 10 that we have collected, that's about 87% that we've collected from just in the top 10. of collections.
Hey, Les, can I just ask that you run that report and share it with the full board? It might be nice to compare and contrast and see what looks like for the whole county. Would that be okay?
The only thing I can't run for the whole county is numbers. I would have to get that okayed by the county attorney with specific numbers.
In terms of revenue per town?
Correct. I believe you. The total collections per town, is that obtainable through?
Even,
town.
I mean, a unit report or any sort of volume that you can give us, just so we have a.
The only thing, Kyle, even when Nick Ciotti was the treasurer and he was doing the short-term rental, and even when I was the treasurer, we did not give out the individual, like we'll say the Quality Inn.
That's fine.
You know, they took in X number of dollars. Then backwards, you could figure exactly how much revenue they were taking in.
Yeah.
And Nick and me, and I'm thinking Les too, don't believe that we should be giving out for individual organizations how much the room tax is, because then you could figure backwards on what their income is. So,
Totally fine. I'm more looking for units. I'm just kind of seeing where we're dispersed and what kind of traffic different towns are getting. Just curiosity.
Yeah, that's fine.
Another question for you though. Do you have an educated guess on what our enforcement rate is? How many units that we're aware of compared to how many you think are out there that we haven't found yet?
Well, we're at 91%.
So you got 9% misses.
Well, 91, it's kind of confusing. 91% are identified, but they're all not paying yet because they're still trying to be identified on who's paying and who's not paying. So there's still probably about 40% out there that's not paying. And I was going to ask for the board's help also. And how do we get the information out there to the residents that are not familiar with the program? I mean, the chamber, I mean, they're always looking for ways, but I'm looking for feedback from you, I guess, of different means to get the information out there to the taxpayers, because a lot of them call us up and they're not aware.
Legal notice? I mean,
I got a great way to do it.
dodging taxes.
I do it for all my grants and everything else. I started a Facebook page for the town of Waterloo, and with a minimal amount of marketing and a minimal amount of, I mean, I'm talking like $5-6. You draw a circle, you advertise for a day or two, $5-6, and then you reach 10,000, 20,000 people. I mean, you can definitely see the mark on who you're reaching, who you're not reaching. And when you're struggling to fill CBDG grants and everything else, I'm filling them within 24 hours where it used to take a month. So if you really want to get the word out, social media, with the way that Facebook works, even if only half the people in the county have Facebook, they'll tell the other people about it. So, I mean, whatever the message is, for probably $10, $20, you could reach the entire county and get the word out. So that's one way that I do it.
Even if it's more than that, if I'm hearing 60% enforcement rate and we're pulling in over 600,000, we're losing out on $500,000 a year. So I think it's prudent to invest as little as $20, but potentially as much as a full-time salary person to track the rest of these down and enforce.
I think it'll just be a combined effort from the towns and the county, because some of the towns, there's 3 of them that do have their own enforcement, which is Seneca Falls, Farrack, and Fayette.
Kyle, it may be a moot point, because as I was sharing with Les the other day, New York State Legislature is talking about doing some type of registry for short-term vacation rentals throughout New York State. If your county has a legitimate registration, they will defer to the counties, and if not, they're going to have to register with New York State. So you're going to be hearing a lot about this. I think Albany has realized that that's a big number, and I'm sure they're going to come with open hand and find some way to add some New York State taxes onto it.
New York State loves taxes.
Yeah, I believe you're right, Bob, and that's why we have our own registration information that we also have that we put out there, that they have to register with the county, and then the towns also have their own individual registrations. the ones that have
And
their
you
own.
share back and forth with each towns that have that, correct?
That is correct. We are in contact with the towns.
Question?
Jeff got a question.
All right. Les, I want to understand, if there's, I'm just going to round it up, $700,000 in collected. And to get to Frank's point about you don't want to identify, but and this is why I'm a little bit lost. But if it says Del Lago 25%, don't I just multiply 25% times 700,000?
What's that?
I'll give you a ballpark number.
Like 25%.
25%.
Del Lago's contribution.
Right, but I thought that's what we didn't want to identify, or did I misunderstand?
I was asking for short-term, not hotel, but
Right.
other short-term.
Airbnbs.
Short-term rentals out there, that's why you authorize Les to hire host compliance. They looked at 72 different websites. Because anybody here that uses short-term rental probably took a picture on Facebook or posted it somewhere. They monitor 72 different websites. That's how they're finding these short-term rentals for Seneca County.
Right, okay.
You know, every month they send less, they will be now that we've gone through all the.
Right, right.
Every month they'll be sending less a list of short-term rentals that they found, and then they'll be asking less, just like they did with me when I was treasurer. Hey, do you want us to send a registration notice out to these people? Like I went back, yeah, send out the registration notice.
Okay.
So host compliance or Granicus, or their new name, they're the ones that are gonna be finding most of these short-term rentals. Like I say, utilizing those 72 social media sites or.
Right, so it's just certain ones. Anybody underneath the top 10, we're not identifying.
Well, I mean, so these are individual
All right, forget it.
entities that are doing it. So every, how many ballpark residential short-term rentals in the county? 1,000? 500?
Oh, so,
Yeah,
what was it?
you got it.
About 579. But what you have is 374 of them are registered, but there's 579 total between long-term and short-term. Because out of the 374, you might have a business, that owns like 3 cabins that are all individual
So that,
being rented.
I'm not to offend you, but I'm not buying 91% identified either.
Well,
This is 26 units per town. I think everybody here can probably say they've got more than that.
That was going to be my next question is it that's just 91% identified, but we really don't know necessarily the whole universe? That
Correct.
count.
That is correct.
When you identify and send them a registration letter, what's the next step if they don't fill it out and send it back? How do you enforce that they actually get registered?
Well, then host compliance will, Les worked on a letter with host compliance, then he notifies host compliance. Host compliance will send them out a letter. Actually, on the back of the letter will be photographs of the inside and outside of the exterior and interior of the place. So now the person knows, hey, we've got you. We've actually got pictures. Because through these social media sites that they register, just like I said, everybody is picture happy. They take pictures all the time or videos. They get these things, they'll put them on the back of the letter, and then the person, if they don't pay, then Les will go to the county attorney. And in your local law in Seneca County, there are penalties that can be enforced by Les. He could ask for, hey, we want to audit your books. We want to make sure you're filing your income tax. We want to look at that. Did you report it to the federal government that you made money on a rental? So all that can be done from, Les can do all that. It's all in your local law that you passed years ago. So he has all that enforcement power through the county attorney.
Les, I'm glad you have the enforcement power, but do you have the staffing to enforce? If you had a full-time staffer, what do you think the effect on the program would be? Or is that not necessary? Is that overkill?
Well, right now we're building it in stages. So this does commit some time to it. So it depends what your return wants to be, I guess. If you want a bigger return, then I guess maybe we should look at somebody actually enforcing it. it's all what you're looking for, I guess. We're doing the best we can with it, and that's why we hired a company to locate these, but we can only do so much also.
I'm not on grade.
No, and it totally changes. It totally changes. They're popping up everywhere. And it's constantly, and there's websites, they identified 72 of them that they've been checking into, that they, on a regular basis, but there's other websites out there, they said, that they haven't identified, that they're advertising with.
Still have questions.
Joe, go ahead. Sorry.
So I see Airbnb on here, but I don't see VRBO. Do they make the individual person send that in, or does VRBO?
They're not one of our top
RVRBO, if,
ones.
those people there, we don't have a contract with RVRBO. There is a contract with the county with, Airbnb.
Okay.
Those people are obligated to do it on their own.
Okay.
They're supposed to fill out their own monthly sheet or whatever. The only people that do a group is Airbnb
okay.
and Premier Properties.
Yep.
They send their stuff in as a group also.
Okay.
But everybody else has to do it on their own. And even if you're with Airbnb and you say, gee, this month I'm not going through Airbnb, I'm gonna do it myself, you're supposed to report that to Les in the treasurer's office. Every penny you get, short-term rentals, you're supposed to report.
Right. Okay.
And just to piggyback on what Mr. Shipley said, when I stayed in an Airbnb, I don't recall paying any state income or sales tax. So if they're gonna do something, you poke the sleeping giant, and they're probably gonna want sales tax money on there now. So the only bad thing about that is they get 4%, we get 4%, and then the tax goes up to 5%. Now that's 13% you're charging people. Say, which I'm sure that's not gonna slow it down.
They pay for a hotel anyway, 13%.
Well, right now, there is none.
Mike,
So-
Don has a question.
Don's got one. What do you got, Don?
The only reason Airbnb complies is because of the lawsuit that they were served with and lost, right? This is what we talked about originally when we first went into this program, was that Airbnb complies because they got their pantsuit off. Is there a lawsuit actively against Verbo over the same thing? That we could start joining some of these, or at least put pen to paper to get them to start paying, because there's no way Airbnb would pay if nobody sued them. So this is something that's come on in recent years. It seems like they take the same case law that Airbnb lost, which is why they comply now. Is there more lawsuits for some of these things that we could jump in on so they start complying the same way Airbnb has to comply now? Because there's no way they would have paid unless they got their pantsuit off.
I can answer that. Les can talk to host compliance, who does this stuff nationally, to find out if there's any lawsuits going on and exactly how these other RVRVO or any of these other ones pay and how they work it so we do get that money. So Les can call host compliance or Granicus, find out, get your question and ask them, and then come back at the next committee meeting and give you an answer on that.
It seems like the most likely way to get paid is to let the big dogs take care of it. If there's something we can do just to join in on their fight, then I think we do that. Add more fuel to the fire, so to speak. But it seems like there almost has to be something like that going on with all these different social media and everything else that's going on. Let's let them do the heavy lifting and, more ammo in their gun, as far as that's concerned.
Yeah. I think it does help with the code enforcement officers too in each towns that are actually participating.
Yeah,
It does help.
right there.
'Cause I've been in contact with Pete Purcelli from Seneca Falls on a regular basis, and we've requested information from each other. So it's the working relationship, I guess, is what we need to have, I guess, with each town. And
Well, Les, did you say there's only 3 towns who are focused on this?
Seneca Falls, Fayette, and Varick.
You guys are the ones that have rules, right? Written rules, those 3 towns, right?
Well, I mean, to your point, oh, can I speak?
Yeah, go.
To your point, I mean, I know we're moving it's probably gonna end up as a full-time code enforcement officer, of which one, this will be part of their job. And so that coordination, I think, would be useful, because I mean, next to social media, I would say the next best thing is no neighbor is gonna let this happen without us being notified, because they love to tell on each other. And so the likelihood of there being one without it being registered, like in our town, is highly unlikely.
Let me throw one out there from left field too. Is there any thought, and maybe I'll rope Lisa Keschel into this, because I like to get her in trouble. Is there any thought to assessing these properties as commercial properties? Are we giving that any consideration? It's completely changing the character of the neighborhood. You're talking about traffic and business, and that would clearly raise the property values. We're talking about supply and demand a little bit here. Has that conversation happened at all among the assessors? No?
Not to my knowledge.
Mr. Chairman, that's up to the local town as far as assessment, making it zoning and so forth. Some towns don't have zoning, other towns do. I got an idea. Have the Cayuga Nation check up on the Airbnbs. They could help us out policing it.
Thought I was out of left field.
Anything else, Les? Or
I got one.
Can't be anything left, can there? There can't be anything left.
Excuse
Can
me,
be.
Mr. Chairman.
fine, Carl.
Is there code enforcement, or is there a law that if you live next to a commercial property, that your property gets a tax break, has less taxes if you live next to a commercial property?
That'd be up to the assessor.
You know,
That's total.
Necessarily, not necessarily, however, it depends on a number of different circumstances.
When that come back to zoning,
Up to the assessor.
up the assessor.
Grievance day, Kraut. Grievance day.
You know, every house that comes up for sale on Lower Lake Road is snapped up by an LLC.
Yeah.
And paying $100,000 more than asking price, and the owner doesn't, you know, lives in California or something, they never see it. It goes directly to Premier Properties for short-term rental. And it's definitely changing the character of the neighborhood.
They're getting even better than that. Some of these corporations, because they don't want you to know that they're corporations, are buying them under all kinds of different people's names. I know one guy's got 10, 12 properties, and he's just got a different LLC for every one of them. That way you can't figure out that that's the same guy that's buying all the properties, because LLCs don't cost very much to start. So just to avoid you and our conversation right now, they're switching identities all over the place to make sure you can't figure out that they own 150 of them. This guy owns 12 to 15, and he's got a different name on every one of them. That way you can't figure out it's him. It's kind of... hats off to
He'll give
him.
you a list of addresses you can pass.
Not in this county.
Don, why would he?
Ontario. It's Ontario.
Thank you, Les.
Thanks, Les.
You're welcome.
Anything else, or that it, or?
No, that's all.
I have one last question.
Yeah,
for
go
Les,
ahead, Bob.
if I could. Les, we talked about Airbnb. When they remit the bed tax directly to the county, correct?
Correct.
But they do not give you the addresses of where that came from? Right, all they do is give you a monthly amount or whatever.
That is
They don't break down that this came from,
Yeah, that is correct. Yeah.
yeah, that's what I thought. So,
Yeah.
I mean, they try and disguise it too, Don,
Yeah.
to your point.
Yeah, like I said, and usually what it is they're like our March 20th was the last day, so usually we get it a month later. So we'll be receiving their last payment probably about a month from now. So hopefully that's up there.
I mean, you don't even know how many properties that check represents, do you?
Yes. Granicus has given Les, and when I was the treasurer, me too, a list of the Airbnbs. That's part of the service they do. Through that social media and the 72 websites that they monitor, They know which ones are Airbnb. Like you can go right now and look at an Airbnb on any website here in Seneca County. And it's like I told the board when I was the treasurer, hey, they won't give me the address until I put the credit card down. You can see pictures of the house, pictures of the inside, but until you give them your credit card number, they don't give you the address. But Granicus has got all those addresses from the Airbnb. Now, can we match them up to the, when we get the address, can we match it up to the 55,000? No, we can't do that. But we know where they are because we don't know how much each one is paying.
Yeah, and my point though, Frank, was that the monthly or quarterly check you get from Airbnb does not give you a breakdown of where that amount came from.
No, it doesn't.
That's,
But we know where the Airbnbs are now, though.
Right.
yeah,
Well, you got it on here, 191 Airbnbs.
Yeah.
On page 3 or 4, it'll tell you how many.
Give you 191 addresses by town.
But I don't know how much they're actually collect from.
from each one.
Right, because we
Correct.
don't know how many days they rent. And
Right.
the other thing, just to keep prolonging this, is when Lester's contract with Granicus now, they are actually gonna monitor, we'll say, let's say I was renting my house, 2423 Lower Lake Road. If I turned in $6,000 last year to Les as a 3%, and this year I only turned in 1,000, Granicus is gonna call Les or send him an email and say, hey, Frank Senecropi's house, he did 6,000 last year and only 1,000 this year. You need to go investigate that. Give him a call and find out if he's still running his house or what happened. So they're actually monitoring for less the numbers of how, each year that property turns in for revenue.
It's going to take a little while though, because we need to establish a baseline on it of what they're actually collecting.
All right, so then that raises the question, will that information then be shared back with the towns?
Yeah, I could do that.
I mean, that way we can, compare notes and see who's registered.
Yeah.
Who's complying and who's not.
Yeah, not to beat this to death, but now that I'm hearing that, we've got the honor code for anybody not through Airbnb at this point. So even at 3%, you're just self-reporting, and there's no enforcement mechanism whatsoever. Shot in the dark.
And VRBO, I just looked, they do charge it on their website when you check out. So anybody that rents through there, they're collecting it. They're just not turning it in.
Nice.
Thanks, Les.
You're welcome.
Good deal.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, number 2, supervise, confirm, and ratify, adopt actions of the Seneca County Treasurer to contract with Auctions International, online auction services for the county sales tax.
Support.
Motion, second.
First and second, any more discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. Number 3, extend the sales tax rolls and bills for villages.
Support.
Second.
First and second, okay. You gonna talk, Lisa, or it's business as usual, correct?
This is just general housekeeping to give the Seneca County Manager the okay to sign the village rolls and after the annual agreements are signed or approved by the county attorney.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Hearing none. Number 4, extend the tax rolls, bill extract files to Phelps, Clifton Springs, Romulus, Seneca Falls, South Seneca, Trumansburg, and Waterloo School Districts.
Second.
Second,
Same thing, general housekeeping. We don't do the bills for the schools, but we do the bill extract files.
Any questions? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Hearing none. 2022, 2023 budget transfer resolution. James Haley. Got a first?
Right here.
A second?
Second.
Haley?
So before you, I have handed out an amended 22-23 amended budget transfer. A couple of items with 2023, we have some housekeeping that we needed to do with the beginning of the year. Note number 1 relates to facilities drop-in center budget, where under Resolution 25922, we awarded a contract to MASSA. Unfortunately, the PO did not get cut before the end of the year, so in order to honor the remainder of the contract, we need to appropriate from fund balance and then to issue the PO for the remainder of that contract. Note number 2, we had some revenue and expenditures that missed getting put into the mental health addictions budget that we want to do as housekeeping. Note number 3 is the sewer 3 budget. We just need to make some adjustments to the revenue lines, so we made sure that we showed our debt reserve revenue of the $100,000 that needs to be disclosed for the 2023 budget. The note number 4 is DHS budget adjustment per Resolution 2223. This was the subcontractors' contracts for the Phase 4, right? Phase 4 of the second floor, and also where the resolution read that we were using 22 funds, but this was now already after the close of the 22 year, so we're going to have to appropriate fund balance to be able to issue the POs to those subcontractors. Note number 5, now we move into 2022 budget adjustments. Here we're closing a couple of capital projects in the highway capital projects line, and Bulsley Road is the one capital project for $66,000, and then in previous years, the capital projects for the highway fund in the capital projects fund were not designated by separate project codes. They were all in just one line. And going through and reconciling what activity had occurred in prior years, even predating into 2017, we reconciled everything to find that we had a shortfall of $25,715 to get all of the prior capital projects closed, and so we can book our fixed assets in preparation going into our 22 audit. So Roy has some funds under the 22 budget, under the Stone and Gabions and Salt line, that we would like to appropriate and transfer into the capital projects fund to cover those projects and get them closed. Note number 6, the sheriff's office for the jail. We, through our reconciling process, identified that the housing out invoices for the inmates that we've been housing out with the Ontario County, we have not been invoiced for yet, so we want to set aside those funds because it is a 22 expense, and he has excess funds in the retirement line, so that's the budget transfer we want to do to account for those items. Any questions?
Mike Farrar's got one.
Mr. Chairman, are the capital funds now designated by, identified by the capital funds now moving forward?
Yes, moving forward, each separate project has a project code, and we're able to reconcile each project separately.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Hearing none. Number 6, preliminary financial report.
So you have before you a handout. It's an unaudited financial report for the year end 2022, and it's really a snapshot in time because this is not a final figures until the audit is complete and all the final reconciliations are done. But I would like to at least give you this this presentation to give you an idea of where we are today. So the page 1, I just try to give you historical information of the tax levy and the tax rate. You see that Going into 2023, our tax levy is $10,715,000 with a tax rate of 3.79 per thousand. Just so you have that information at your hand. Page 2 is where we're looking at the fund balance analysis for certain funds, not enterprise. We're excluding enterprise and capital project funds. Specifically, we've got the general fund where we're right now anticipating it at $11,547,243. This does not include the amount that was set aside for encumbrances that rolled over into the next year. So you see, we did have a decrease in general fund balance for 2022. Workforce, we've been using up the fund balance that had been accumulating under the workforce budgets, and you can see that we've now used up those funds and have a slight negative fund balance. Going into the 2023 budget year, we have now started to transfer funds in from the county general fund budget. And I believe for 2023, the county is transferring in $97,000 into the workforce fund. County road fund, we have a year-end fund balance of $2.7 million, so we've reduced it by $139,000. Originally, when we were doing the 22 budget, Mitch we had set aside trying to use $700,000 of the county road fund balance, but expenditures didn't dictate that we needed to do that, so we've reduced it by $140,000. Road machinery, we've ended the year with a $709,000 fund balance, so that actually increased by $43,000 over 2021. And I've given you a snapshot of the workers' comp fund, which did increase slightly their fund balance by $51,000, and the risk management, which also increased by $113,000. So if you have any questions on that, we can move to the next page. Next page, you see that I gave you a historical view of the year-end fund balance numbers and the percentage of that fund balance that is a percentage of the next year's budget. And we are at 15% this year. It's usually a good range between 10 and 20%. Comptrollers like to see. There is no set percentage that they require. They like it to be a reasonable amount, and this is certainly within those parameters. So page 4, we go into our revenue sources of just the general fund revenues. You will see that our sales tax is our highest percentage of our revenue at $31,900,000 or 44.8% of our total revenues. That came in over budget by 17.8% or $4.8 million. Property taxes is our next highest revenue source of 17% or at $12,161,000. And that is still was able to be staying within our tax cap calculations. State aid is next at 13.1% or $9.3 million. That's down slightly from what we had originally budgeted, and it's also down from what we actually received last year. Federal aid is at 8% or $5.7 million. That also is down from last year, where we actually received $5.8 million. Departmental income is 10.9% or let's say 11%, and we brought in $7.8 million. Last year we brought in $8.1 million. The largest, so that was down $277,000. The largest decrease that we had was the fact that we could no longer house in inmates. That was what impacted that number the most. Other tax items is staying 3.5 million, which is higher by 497,000. That is where the Del Lago gaming revenue is budgeted. And we had originally budgeted 2.28 million. We got, and we brought in 2.5 million. So that was up 220,000. So that's your revenues for 2022. On the next page is your expenditures. You can see social services is our highest budget at 25.7% of our budget, and public safety is next at 23.1. Both of those budgets were at, so social services, we budgeted 20 million, it came in at 17 million. Public safety, we budgeted 17 million and it came in at 15 million. So we're under budget. And general government support was also came in at 10.5 million. It's under budget. We budgeted 11.6. Health, it's 17.5%. 11.8 million is what we actually spent. We budgeted 12.7. And as you can see going down, we had our interfund transfers, our education. These are all under 10% of our budgeted expenditures, reducing down. On down, I even gave you, our transportation, which was 25,000. So of our total expenditures of 67,621,000, we budgeted 75 million. So that was a 10% reduction that our actuals were to budget. Part of that was the fact that we had encumbrances that rolled over into 2023. So of the 7.4 million difference between expenditures and budget, 2 million of it was were encumbrances that for POs that weren't completed at the end of the year that rolled over into the next year. So that does skew our expenditures somewhat. But when you look at all of 2021, our actual expenditures were 60 million, and our expenditures are actually up to 67 million. That you will note is the increase in the salaries and the fringe benefits because of the new negotiated contracts. So if you have any questions on that, let me know. Sure.
2022 expenditures? That's just a typo?
Yes, okay. Yeah, you're right. That is a typo at the bottom. It is total 22 total expenditures. That's correct. Yes, Stan?
Just to expand a little bit on public safety, is that the entire sheriff's budget? What else is under public safety other than?
So it would be probation, it would be public defender's office, it would, oh no, it wouldn't be public defenders. It would be emergency management, stop DWI.
Okay. And then if you could just talk a little bit about what we're spending 11 million on for health. What is that? That's your complete public health and mental health and environmental health budgets. Okay. How much can you, if you don't have the number right now, I don't mean to put you on the spot.
That's okay.
But if you could just give us a breakdown of that health, those three, what's getting spent in each department that way?
Sure, I can get that for you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Haley? Oh, Bob's got one. Go ahead, Bob.
Go ahead.
Haley, where does Medicaid show up, in social services?
Yes.
So what that accounts for, I mean, their total is 26%, but of that 26%, probably at least 10% has got to be Medicaid that goes directly to New York State every week.
Yeah, at least 10%. Yeah.
It would be helpful to.
Yeah, I can split that out separately for you and email it to you.
You know, because that looks like you're inflating social services, but they don't have any control over that. And we all know that's going up this year again.
Sure.
Has it ever gone down?
No.
Medicaid?
Yeah.
Well,
we've paid less and less over the past 2 or 3 years, I believe.
Are we getting poorer? Is that why?
No, the state's asking for less money.
Oh, wow.
I want to double check that with the finance director and the county manager, but I think it used to be like 6.2, and I think we're down to like 5.1 million a year.
There's a reason for that. That's
Right.
because of COVID funds that they had available through the federal government. So they reallocated and changed. When I first started pre-COVID, we were at like 112,000 a week, and now we're at what,
96.
96. So it's gonna go back up because now that COVID money is dried up.
Do we know that it's going up again next year to a certain amount, or?
It hasn't cashed yet.
Thank you.
Know that in a couple weeks maybe.
Right.
But we're expecting at least 800,000. Is that correct? So
In what?
excess for Medicaid.
Yeah, I did see that the legislature put the EF-MAP funds back in the one house budget too, so hopefully we'll be getting those back to negate that additional 800.
Yeah, I wouldn't hold your breath.
Anyway. Jeff?
Yep.
I'm sorry.
I don't know if this would be for you or for Margaret, concerning the line where we talked in the public health, where you said mental health was in that also?
Yes.
It's my understanding that mental health is a lot of reimbursements. Do we know the percentage of reimbursement or billables to cover the budget to actual in the mental health area? I don't know, you don't have to have the number right now. I'm just
Yeah.
kind of curious of the percentage, if you could.
Sure.
Thank you.
As far as what their revenues are, yep.
Yeah, compared to expenditure. Thank you.
You got one too?
Yeah, Haley, two questions.
Sure.
One, so over time, it looks like our reliance on property taxes has gone down and our dependency on sales tax has gone up.
True.
Right, kind of flipped probably. So at least historically, one of the positive things about property taxes is it tends to be reliable and predictable. Is there any concern that with such a heavy reliance on sales tax, that should there be some sort of economic event that reduces that might put us in a serious financial predicament?
That's always a concern, and that's why you would want to look at your reserves and your fund balance policies.
And last question, if in fact, does it have any impact if every town's not at 100% equalization rate? Does that have an impact on the revenue that the county collects in property taxes?
No, not exactly. We set our levy and then it pushes back.
I was gonna say, it should,
Rate.
the formula should make it work,
Right.
in theory?
There's potential savings for taxpayers
Right.
of that amount, because equalization is about how you
Right.
distribute the
Right.
tax burden. So,
Changes the burden then when you have full value.
yeah, so I passed along some paperwork to you recently that shows that we're missing about $700 million in property value in this county, which would substantially change what each taxpayer would pay.
Okay, Haley?
Holy geez.
So if we're set on the expenditure page, your last page that I've given you are the reserves, and there is a typo on here that I want to note that I caught later this afternoon. Under your occupancy tax tourism reserve, the number for the end of year 2022 is not $326,145. It's $122,800. So there was a typo in that line.
Big difference.
But I did want to at least make note that you increased reserves overall from $20,900,701 to $21,510,292.
Big jump in the tax reduction reserve between 2020 and 2021. And is that, looks to be about the $6 million in funding that we got from the government, but is there an actual reason for that?
I believe, well, first of all, that was the COVID year, and we did have a big savings in expenditures that year. because the departments were very conservative in their activity. So, and to our benefit, our revenues still held fairly strong, stronger than we had originally expected it to fall.
We didn't have nearly as many people on the payroll either, did we? I mean, it seemed like we weren't refilling a lot of positions.
Well, we did some reorganization that year as well.
Yeah, we cut a bunch of slots and stuff
What year was that?
last year,
Oh,
21.
So of those reserves, what we have committed in the 2023 budget is from the tax reduction reserve, 3.3 million. IT reserve, we do always plug 100,000 in. We don't always use it. Stop DWI, we are going to be using 63,000 of it. And recycling is now drawing from the reserve instead of adding to it. We are planning to use 61,000 in the 2023 budget.
Question. Repair reserve minimum balance, 100 grand. What are you guys fixing for 100 grand? I don't fix anything for 100 grand anymore.
Go buy a new one.
What are you gonna pave, 20 feet?
no, I mean, that paves a mile of road for us.
A mile?
About 120 grand, yeah. The roads are only
That's not enough.
as wide as the rest.
Maybe it's time to review these resolutions. You can see that the resolutions, it's been a number of years since the resolution was last updated in 2002. So it's probably time to maybe amend that policy and update those amounts.
The last dump truck I ordered is rapidly approaching 300 grand and we started at 260.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of the stuff that needs to be repaired is 200,000, it seems like. You know, I'd like to see that at $500,000, to be honest, because I don't know what you're gonna fix for $100,000.
I agree with Don.
You know, that just seems pitifully low.
Just to add to that, I agree, you know, especially with 911, that reserve should be looked at as well. I mean, for the money in there, I mean, you're not gonna fix much down there if you have a catastrophic failure. Just something to think about.
Yeah, look at what our radio towers cost. Jeez. Yeah. Well,
I guess it's just something that the committee should probably take under advisement and come back.
Well, and I guess that was like I'm sorry, can I ask a question? Earlier kind of inclination was, it's awesome to have a decreasing tax rate, but if stuff breaks and there's no money to fix it, I mean, what is that? Just doesn't seem long-term thoughtful. And to that point, Haley, what, looking at page 5, they asked about social services and public safety, but what about actual roads and bridges? Like, is that under general government support or where?
So it's not under this at all. This is only the general fund.
Gotcha.
The highway and road fund, if I at least noted what their fund balance was on page 2.
Okay.
So that you can see those fund balances. The county road, the 2.7 million is approximately 49% of the 23 budget. And the road machinery, the 709,000, is about 55% of its annual budget. So I mean, we do have some reserves there if necessary, but it wasn't really set up as a reserve.
So would highway and roads not be part of the 71 million? I'm sorry, that's revenue. Never mind.
Right.
So that would be in addition to this.
Right. Which, yeah, I can bring you back.
You know, just off the top of your head, how much money we spend on?
Well, so I would say probably close to $6 million a year in the county road fund, which also includes the CHIP funding and expenditures as well.
That 6 million includes chips?
Yes. Right, Roy? Roughly, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, we spend $1 million. And okay, yeah, all right. I just think that's horribly underfunded then. I don't know. It's just, never mind. Not you,
Yeah.
not you. This is insane. Yeah.
Agree.
Mr. Chairman.
Oh, gotta go. Mike?
Thank you. Haley, not to beat this to death, but I'm looking to stop DWI reserve at 117. What would that go to? What would that reserve be used to fund?
So the money for Stop DWI comes from
Fine money.
DWI fine money, and anything that budget doesn't use has to be put into reserve only for those funds. And can be anything to help fund overtime road patrols for DWI enforcement. It could be educational. It can help support the DA's office for DWI litigation. There's a number of different things that it can be used for. And the sheriff's here, he's the one who runs the DWI program.
The reserve, that we're not contributing to the reserve, it's just whatever is left over is where that money has to go, but there are limits on where that can be utilized.
Correct.
Thank you.
Become much more stringent. Used to be by radar, stuff like that. We can't buy those.
Okay. Thank you.
Any more, Haley, or?
I'd be more than willing to bring information back if anybody's looking for more
See if you're
detail.
done, and then I say, I'll see if the board's done. I guess that's the next question. Had a lot of questions here.
Alternative to incarceration. I don't know what that is.
That is a program through the probation department, and that also is funded from fine money. I believe mostly through DWI fines. They get a percentage, and it allows us to, Sheriff, correct me if I'm wrong, but it allows us to get some classification at the jail because we do alternatives to incarceration. Doesn't it help us with our classification compliance with?
All the money comes from fines.
Right, it does come from fines, but
We do a program called incarceration. Is it used as widely as that should be used?
sure.
Can't we give that money just to the sheriff? Does it need to be in a reserve? I don't know why.
I think because it has a designated uses. I can look into what, with Matt Verkey, what the criteria are.
Yeah, I'm just wondering,
funds.
yeah, if there is a reason for the reserve, that'd be great to know. And either that or we'll just give it to the sheriff's office to do his job, you know?
So I did not find the resolution that initiated that reserve, but I'll see if we can locate it, working with the clerk of the board and the county attorney.
Yeah, if it needs to be, if it needs to run a reserve for some reason, I'd fine, but, you know, at the same time, I just don't know what that would be used for. And if not, then let's just give it to him in a different line item.
Okay.
So Haley, is it your recommendation that these resolutions be reviewed? I mean, that's kind of the gist I'm getting from everybody in here after looking at this, that these resolutions, the reserves for the really need to be re-examined?
At least I would suggest the one that is from the 2002 vintage. We did just recently set up the occupancy tax reserve. That's fairly new. And there's also the sewer 3 debt reserve we just recently did. That, because it's not a general fund reserve, I didn't put it on this list, but we certainly can start to update some of these.
Okay, any other questions for Haley?
Great job, thanks, Haley.
Carrying on, yes?
Thank you.
Thank you, Haley. How we doing with Bonadil, by the way? Have they been around lately, or they?
No.
You mean Drescher Malecki?
Or what's that's right. Long gone.
They just finished up our task audit, so that's completed and being uploaded for the Paris reporting that's required for the task. That's being done this week because that needs to be done by the end of the month. I believe to have reached out to Soil and Water. They may be getting back around to doing that. And as we've continued to reconcile our accounts, we still have to reconcile some of our liability accounts and do up some of the work papers before we can give them the final trial balance for them to go ahead and start doing some of the selections and the looking at the detailed audit listings. So it should be starting soon.
Okay. All right. That's good. No, sounds like they're working on it still,
Yep.
so good, good, good. Okay, thank you. And with that, I don't think I got any new business or old business, so I think I am done.
Hooray.
Thank you. Supervisor Reynolds. All right, next we got Economic Development and Tourism, Supervisor Shipley.
Thank you, Chairman. First issue for Economic Development and Tourism is a presentation from the Land Bank. Joe?
All right, thank you for having me tonight, and I hope we're all ready for another presentation, and I'll try to make this as brief as possible. So you all have packets, and if you want to follow along, we'll be going through them, and some pages are required for PAAA and Paris compliance, and we'll reference them, but we'll be spending more time on some pages and less time on others. So the mission statement: Finger Lakes Regional Land Bank Corporation acquires, improves, and redistributes vacant, blighted, and tax-abandoned properties to eliminate the harms and liabilities caused by such properties and returns them to productive use, while being consistent with local municipalities' redevelopment and comprehensive plans. Our board members on page 3. Our board members are appointed by this board. This is the slate of board members that we have now. And I also want to thank the Board of Supervisors for being supportive of the land bank, as well as county administration and department heads and everyone that's been helping out with this project and the housing needs assessment project, which we'll talk a little bit about under county planning. Page 4, land bank process. Normally, in carrying out the mission, the Board of Supervisors grants the land bank vacant and abandoned properties from the tax foreclosure list for $1. This is awesome for the land bank and for the program in this county. And I wanted to thank you guys again for continuing to do that. It makes our grant applications competitive. It really helps out with that. So that's part of the process. Looking forward to this year, we've identified about 2 that we're going to be requesting, but we'll get into more of that in a bit. We rely on partners, Habitat for Humanity, and we're always trying to cultivate more. We are recently working with FLACRA to try to establish more supportive housing or transitional housing and coordinating that with the mental health department. So we were focusing on properties that have water and sewer. So when we're developing these properties, especially for affordable housing, if they don't have water and sewer, or at least one of the 2, it becomes really cost prohibitive to pursue that goal. But that being said, if there's a property in one of your towns or villages that's not on water and sewer that you think would be a good land bank candidate, I really encourage you to give me a call and we can talk about ways that we could take that on. But I won't know about it unless you tell me, because we're really trying to focus on the ones that have water and sewer. So give me a call, and if you have one, and we can have that conversation. Funding. So the state budget in 2022 included funds for land banks for the first time. And we applied for $100,000 in administration and operation funds in 2022, and that was awarded. So we have that. And we just put an application in a couple weeks ago for $369,600 for rehab, demolition, acquisition, and pre-development funds, so really capital costs. The MOA between Seneca County and the land bank helps us out with office space and salary. Grant support from the Attorney General's office, that's over. We've closed out the last one. Property sales. Our best opportunity for revenue for the land bank comes from properties that have been substantially rehabbed or we've done new construction. So to keep the program going, we really would like to see and complete more full rehabs and more new construction of housing. Local CDBG funds. So Seneca County and the town of Romulus closed CDBG revolving loan funds. and up to a certain point of folks that are still paying off those loans, those funds are coming to the land bank, and we use those in the town of Romulus specifically for projects in the town of Romulus. And we don't have any debt right now. So this is for land bank inventory, page 6. As of 2022, we had 7 properties, and these are their addresses. Page 7, acquisitions in 2022. We had 6 of them, all from the tax foreclosure list, and they are listed there. Page 8, property dispositions. In 2022, we sold 6. 101 Virginia Street, we were finally able to sell, and the purchaser and new owner is happily working away over there if you've noticed his activities. And the rest, 108 Minder Street, we're still working on figuring out that project. 33 Taylor Avenue, we started a new house with Habitat near the end of last year, so if you get a chance to drive down Taylor Ave in Waterloo, you'll see that under construction. So page 9. I wanted to go over a couple different basic project types that we carry out before we get to the rest of the presentation. So this example, 156 Fall Street, Seneca Falls, full rehabilitation. So we didn't tear this house down. This was a rehab of what was there. We partnered with Habitat to complete this one, but that is one of the silos of projects that we, for at least housing, are going after. Page 10, this is kind of what I'm really trying to get us to do more of, is the demolition to new construction. So this is on Main Street in Willard. This home was demolished in 2020, and the new home was completed by Habitat with support from the land bank and the Attorney General funding near the end of last year. So really trying to shorten that timeline and also scale it up and do more of these. Which brings us to the next category, is demolition and pre-development, which is included in some of our grant funding that we're hoping to receive. So we tear down a house, we now have a vacant lot. To get more funding, we need to do things like zoning approvals, site plans, blueprints, environmentals. So pre-development funds all that we need to apply to actually do more houses at scale. So in 2023, we're looking at potentially 2 acquisitions from the foreclosure list, one for rehab and one for demo. One's in the village of Waterloo and the other one is in the hamlet of Willard. We've applied for land bank funding for capital projects from the state. They do require an environmental review prior to acquisition, so when we request these properties from the Board of Supervisors after foreclosure, might be a little bit, maybe a month or so to get the approval from the state that we can acquire them for environmental reasons, but we're not expecting that to hold us up. I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of that now. And then brownfields. We applied for that $500,000 EPA brownfield assessment grant through the county and the county planning department. So if the county is awarded that, it'll help do phase 1s and phase 2s and testing on all sorts of environmentally contaminated properties, including ones that are subject to the DEC agreement that this board also reviewed and signed with the land bank, the comptroller's office, and that. So that's all working together, and we're hoping those are awarded the next month or so. So all that being said, we're looking at ways to, we have all of these lots. We really want to continue to build on them and to build on all of them at the same time if we can. So we applied for funding to do pre-development on 9 properties. The sense is that about 15 units is the lowest amount scattered site that the state will provide funding for to build within villages. So we're trying to get to that level. We're working on a strategic plan that we awarded to a consultant today to help us out and get to that point, but 15 seems to be about the sense now. And that 15 units, again, that's not a hard and fast number, that's just an estimation. But we're only getting or only able to receive 2 that are vacant and abandoned off the tax foreclosure list this year. And when the notices went out in the fall, there was about 70 that we thought we may be able to do something with. They're vacant and abandoned. They often come up on the tax foreclosure list every year, but for whatever reason, people come in and pay on these vacant, abandoned, condemned homes, and then we can't do anything with them and it starts over. So with that in mind, Seneca County Planning, we've got some new staff members and some staff members that are gaining more experience with GIS. And there was a need, while the Land Bank Association and HCR were talking about these grants, to quantify how many demolition candidates were left in like the universe of tax foreclosures in Seneca County. So looking at the department to kind of test run these new computer programs we got, we figured we could survey them, and staff built a phone app, and for a week or two at the end of last year, we went out and surveyed 304 properties on water and sewer with any amount of tax arrears. So page 15, there's a little breakdown of what we found. There's 57 potential demolition candidates. 37 parcels are vacant lots with no improvements, which are nice. If we can get a hold of those, you put them in the funding application, and you don't have to do any demolition or anything else. You can put them right in the pot. And 79 unoccupied or potentially unoccupied vacant buildings, all within those 304. Total 278 acres, which is bigger than the village of Obed, on water and sewer with tax arrears that could potentially be brought into more beneficial uses. So when we're looking for opportunities for housing and other things, they're there. We just need to develop strategies and ways to get access to them. So overall, there is an issue with tax delinquency. It's a marker of household economic instability. So a full housing plan might get into more details of how to address that itself. That's what we're doing here, but I just wanted to put that out there that the Land Bank Planning Department, we're not really advocating for more foreclosures. We're advocating for better foreclosures, and we want to make sure that people are able to stay in their homes that are in there now. So there's a couple of things you can do to address this that I'm hoping that we'll be able to pursue over the next year, 2 years. So New York State has Article 1111A, which is an expedited foreclosure proceeding for vacant and abandoned residential real property. So basically what this allows you to do is create a vacant property registry ordinance. So if you have a vacant property, you're required to get on this registry, and inspections happen to confirm that it's vacant. And if that's all done correctly, the foreclosure moves from 3 years to 1 year. So properties that come up every single year that have 3 years back in taxes chronically that are vacant and abandoned, you can compress that number of years it takes to get a hold of them down to 1, which could help us get control of more of these. The other thing you can do is called Article 19A, and that may need to be taken, the lead for that may need to be taken by towns and villages. I'm not sure about that, but this is a lawsuit to get title to an abandoned property that's code problems and issues in that way. So 2 different methods to try to get a hold of this situation. So, thinking about our own program and what we're capable of and what we may be able to do with our resources, I don't think we would try to do 70 or all 304 at one time. Do a strategic targeted 10, 15 and see what we can do.
Joe?
Yeah.
And just to go along with what you're saying about the tax foreclosure, and this happens in Florida. If you're late on your taxes, you don't pay. 30 days later, somebody buys it. They call it a warrant, but it's not like a normal warrant like you would associate. Yeah. But for like $150, $200, they buy the thing, and then you're subject to the penalties that they decide to put on it. But they can't go over 25% for like 6 months. And then after 6 months, if nobody does anything, they own that property. I mean, there's no 3-year deal. They just take it, it's gone. You didn't pay your taxes, you're done. The person that gets the warrant issues you a certified letter and everything else, you go through the court system. If you don't get a hold of them and pay that warrant off, you're done. Donezo. It happens that quick. And is there any way to follow up with what you're talking about right now that we could do something like that with New York? Or, I mean, it's probably a New York law, isn't it, that you go 3 years and then you're done? Or are there other parts of the state where you don't get 3 years, you only get a year?
I think some of that's a good question for Edmund.
Okay.
So, you know, if it's 3 years or 2 years, I do believe the state has guidelines that the counties can opt into. And this is only for the vacant and abandoned ones. You can compress to one if you follow that process. As far as tax lien sales, I believe those are allowed in New York State. I'm not sure if many places still do them. Part of what an issue is with that is that those liens are purchased by speculators, and then there are some not great outcomes that can come from that. So the liens are purchased, and then the properties aren't redeveloped while they wait for the land to increase in value, or they are doing that while also having substandard housing and all sorts of stuff like that. So I think the instinct is there, but I'm not sure if that's something that I would personally advocate for us doing here.
Well, we got that. I mean, I know Mike got a hold of you, and we have one really bad property. You know, it's got animals and stuff, junk all over the place, and you know, it's been delinquent on taxes for a long time now. And you know, to be honest, it doesn't even look like a house; it looks like a shed that people were living in. And you know, it's for us, it's more of a public safety thing. Even though it's out in the country, it's still really close to another house. You know, and the vagrant animals and everything else. You know, people call me all the time. They're like, "Can't you do anything?" Like, we're trying.
So what I would say to that is, if we're able to institute this 1 year, we could put that property on the registry. If we do all of that correctly, we could move to foreclose on it after just 1 year.
Okay.
Which would shorten that time span. And hopefully knock that situation loose.
Yeah, some of these ones that are really big disaster, it'd be nice to be able to move a little faster, you know, and you got garbage and mountains of rats and animals and everything else.
And there's a lot of them, and like I said, so I don't think we could do them all at once. I think we would pick that one, and maybe 9 others, and see if we could do something about it. But
Don, can some of those problems be handled by zoning?
No, well, we're handling them by
Property
zoning.
maintenance?
The problem is you don't have enough teeth. Right, our zoning codes in the town, you don't have any teeth. I mean, you can bring them in front of whoever you want to for a judge. Okay, it's going to go on your taxes. Okay, oh, great, you know, but you know, and you can't put anybody in jail for anything anymore. So that ain't going to work. That don't fly. And then you know, people that don't have any money can't get blown out of a rock. You know, so and it really doesn't go anywhere after a certain point. I mean, you get some of these people that got, you know, 10,000 tires in their back lawn. Bring me into court. Oh, you owe us $1,000. Well, I can't even get rid of the tires now because I can't pay the fine. So you can't give me a $1,000 fine because I already can't pay to get rid of the tires. Get paid to get rid of my trash because I'm broke. You know, it's just such catch-22. If you ever saw it, so then you get into the teeth of what you can do with your codes, and you know some of these people don't care if they get in trouble. They've been arrested 300 times before they turn 18. So you know, what are you going to do with them? You know, when you bring them into the codes court, you know, they don't care.
Yeah, this 1111A seems promising though. You know,
So
you can turn it over. You just need a little investment.
Regardless, all of that aside, just to address that one thing, we could cut the timeline down and get control of the situation faster.
I like it.
Of just one aspect of all that. So, forging ahead. Page 17, the Seneca County Housing Needs Assessment. So this is through the County Planning Department. We received a $50,000 CDBG grant from HCR to do this housing needs assessment. We're expecting that to be completed in 2023. So they're looking at the effects of the pandemic on housing and the housing crisis here in Seneca County. We've had a number of stakeholder meetings, and there's going to be a market study released with the report as well. Those stakeholder meetings, I want to thank Mental Health and the Human Services Department for coming out and their staff participating in some of those, and then helping and following up consistently with the consultants and the planning department to get a handle on that piece of the housing needs assessment, which is something that I don't think I was fully expecting to get engaged in at the beginning of this, but I think we're going in good places, and I want to thank the Mental Health Department and the Human Services Department for helping out. So with that, immediate next steps. So we're expecting a couple of awards, hopefully, in April. The capital funding for land banks that we applied for, we're expecting that to be announced. Hopefully we get that April or May. We're expecting the EPA Brownfield Assessment Grant to be announced. And again, hopefully we're getting that one as well. And then moving into grant executions. And in May or June, we're going to be looking for and requesting from this board property transfers from the foreclosure list. And then scheduling closings after that. And we're expecting the brownfield agreement with the DEC to be executed any day. And the rest, I've got pictures of the rest of the projects from 2022, but I'm not going to go over them individually. And that is it.
Any questions for Joe?
Joe, the 300, on page 15, the 304 properties total surveyed, and those include water and sewer, so does that mean there's more properties?
With tax arrears?
Right.
Yes. And if Wes is still here, I don't know how many off the top of my head that we cut them down from. But yeah, there's other properties that don't have water and sewer that have tax arrears.
Okay, so just to clarify, it is water or sewer, not water and sewer.
Correct.
Okay.
So that would, water or sewer would include properties with water and sewer.
So like it would include properties in the hamlet of Fayette.
And as well as properties in the village of Lodi.
All right,
yes.
okay.
Anybody else? Paul?
I just like to say, you know, page 14 there with, says there's 304 properties. There are arrears on their taxes. I'm sure all of them don't want to pay their taxes. I'm sure there's a lot of them that wish they could. But the taxes as high as they are in New York State, and their job opportunities that pay a scale to be able to live here, that gap's getting wider and wider. You know, I don't think all of them are avoiding them on purpose.
You could be right.
If they clean up their trash, it'd be a lot better.
I know.
They can move to Florida.
That's a percentage.
And I think he is right.
All right.
The county manager and the county treasurer recently got into the IRMA program that I believe is going through the Attorney General's office to help with seniors that have outstanding tax arrears or mortgage payments or anything like that. So hopefully that comes online soon with Law New York, and that'll be, for the people that you're talking about and concerned about, that'll be a resource for them.
Supervisor Cronenwetter, 1 out of 3 of these properties are either vacant, unoccupied, or
Right,
abandoned.
1 out of 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Anybody else?
the other 2.
Joe, you're doing a good job.
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
Anybody? Thank you, Joe. Okay, moving on to resolutions. Issue number 2, authorize snowmobile trail grant application and signing agreement with Twin Lakes Snowmobile Association.
So moved.
Second.
Second, motion made and seconded. Any discussion?
Yep, this is just an annual resolution that we bring to support the snowmobile trails program. So it just authorizes contracts with the clubs, allows us to prepare applications on their behalf, and have county manager and finance take care of whatever financial transfers need to be happening.
They didn't have too good of a year this year.
No, it's been good.
Any questions for Joe? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion's carried. Unfinished business. Seneca County Tourism Promotion and Development Grant Fund application for the town of Covert. Mike, at the last meeting, your request was tabled and asked for additional information. I know you folks sent a letter,
We sent a letter, and I've talked to everybody, I think, on the committee. Any questions that we still have, I can probably answer, but I hope it's whether we're a little more ready to vote on it, I guess. I don't know.
And we have a copy of the application that's all made out. And it's under the other category.
Did we find it? I guess it was missing earlier. Mitch, did you get a hold of it? Or?
Yep. Mitch took care of it.
Mitch took it. Okay, perfect.
It's in our packet.
Any questions for Supervisor Reynolds?
Jeff had a question.
Jeff?
It's in our packet, or is it just in the committee's? Oh, just the committee, is that right? Well, I was gonna say, should we then, if we're not on the committee, should we just wait for our questions?
Yeah, I would like to
That's fine.
hold it to the committee. Is there any questions from the committee members? If there is not any questions from the committee members, I will allow questions from the rest of the board. Jeff, did you have a question?
I just didn't, if the committee had discussed the questions that were brought up last time, I was just interested in what the answers were.
We haven't met since last time.
Oh, all right.
Till now, so.
What's your question? I can tell you.
Well, I mean, so who will control this?
The three entities will control it. The town of Ulysses, Village of Trumansburg, and town of Colbert. We're the three entities that are sent the request to the state of New York for the LDC, and got approved. Yep, they have it in their hands. I don't know how fast state of New York moves, but I am hoping we'll have that approval, and we will go along with the LDC. The state parks is, in the meantime, is waiting, or they're in the process of purchasing the property. It will happen the late third quarter, or probably the fourth quarter of this year, so October, November, possibly they'll purchase it, and the state will own it, or state parks will own it, and it'll be up to us to insure it, because the Boy Scouts will go away then, and then it'll be the state parks, but they have no money to buy insurance or anything like that. They have lots of money to build picnic tables, but that's about it. So we'll have to insure it. There's buildings there. I don't know, I think Bob and a couple others, Roy, went down there and seen it. There's a lot of buildings there, not a lot, but there's 30, 40 buildings there that should be insured for anything that could happen to them.
So would
we'll have to provide that insurance. The town, the three entities I spoke of earlier will have to provide that insurance, and just to get us through this year. Next year, we're waiting on the state parks when they get their ownership. We'll move forward with what the next step is. I don't know, state parks, we're going to just build the picnic tables there and have a park there, or the boys still. They got the mess hall there and everything else is still in good shape. Boy Scouts would love to have it again. I think to use it for a year, a month. This summer is booked for a year, or not booked for a month this year. The Boy Scouts got use for it this year for a year coming. The next year, maybe they could want it again. And what else? We got kayak. I don't know what we're gonna do. Kayaks, swimming. They got beachfront there. There's tons of things to do at a state park.
So would there be an ongoing county commitment to financially?
I'm not gonna say no, but hopefully not. Hopefully, once this gets rolling, I think they're gonna charge an admission eventually there and put that money back in. Plus, we're gonna charge the Boy Scouts because they're gonna be sitting on millions of dollars in land sale. They will be able to charge them back, and the Boy Scouts will pay to use, and anybody else wants to use it will pay. As the state parks is stepping in, there's gonna be submission fees of some kind, and we'll use that money to keep it going. So maybe a little bit of more money to get going eventually, but I'm hoping not. We just want to, this $10,000 we're asking for is just to buy us a seat at the table with the other two towns, or one town and a village.
How much are they contributing?
Everybody had to do 10, but they've already gone up and above, and they've thrown 20 in, because they've got more money than they know what to do with, obviously. But the agreement is for 10 apiece, so 30,000. That'll get us our insurance and possibly some snow removal or something like that this winter, and we'll down the road we'll have to look at lawn mowing and all that. But we all got, each town's got a tractor and a mower, so we'll probably be able to figure out a way to cover that. So down the road.
Have one wedding event. That'll cover.
Right. I know. Yeah, that's wedding venues have been talked about at the mess hall there. It's huge kitchen there. They could put a lot of people in there. So that's, like I say, there's lots of options.
If the other towns
Thank you.
committing that, how much is the town of Covert committing?
The 10 agreed on 10,000. That's all I'm asking for.
From us?
Yeah.
No,
Yes.
no, I mean, if those other towns are giving, there's 3 towns, right?
3 towns.
They're giving 20 each.
No, 10. They are giving, the agreed upon amount is 10,000.
All right,
They're
And
going,
then-
they've got extra money laying around, so they're throwing 20 in.
okay.
So but that wasn't asked for. That's just them.
But
doing
they're
their own
putting
thing.
20 in.
They're putting 20 in, but it's not required.
How much is Covert putting in?
10.
Just a 10.
He's asking.
No,
We're putting in.
No,
Covert's putting
Seneca County is putting in 10.
No, he's asking, he's asking
Right,
for a
let's-
grant.
Over's not putting.
I'm just
anything
trying to
in
be
right now.
clear.
I will.
All right.
They will have to put it in if the county doesn't come through.
Oh, well,
Okay. Next question is Kyle.
Well, I'm gonna hit on the same topic there is, I'm comfortable with this because we have the funds in tourism. This isn't exactly a tourism grant application. It's outside of the boundaries of our policy, so a little shaky on that. But I'm willing to do this if Covert is willing to meet the moment as well and begin budgeting for it going forward. I think an annual request is inappropriate.
Right. No, I don't think it'll be ever over and over and over and over. So
Unless
correct.
the county gets a seat at the table as well, because I think that's a conversation worth having. If the county wants to invest alongside Covert, in place of Covert, or any of those options. I have no idea how the rest of the board feels about that, but I certainly have interest in a beautiful county park on the shores of Cuba Lake.
No.
Supervisor Reynolds?
Yeah, next question is Dave Hayes.
Okay, it's not, I don't have any questions. I just have one thing that, if you listen to the report that he just gave, why in the heck would Seneca County want to give 1 inch of the property to 2 other towns that have nothing invested in it but to make money? They don't invest in it for anything for them. They're investing in it for money. They're going to make money. So why in the heck would Seneca County say, we'll let you other 2 in here and take a little bit of our pie? We're already talking about possible loss of some tourism at some point in time, sales tax loss. This is another revenue. Don said it perfectly. Just have 1 wedding venue and all paid for. Oh, well, if you had 10, then I guess 9 of them are all profit, right? So why would we let somebody else have profit in our county when we have 5 freaking towns in this county and 1 and only 1 made a decision without coming to this board to A, you guys want to get on this before it goes to the point where it's going to be in Ithaca, not a town, the city of Ithaca, and the town of Ulysses. They are not our county. I cannot support it for 1 second. And if anybody on this board supports it, other than the town of Covert, you guys should be reelected, or you guys should not be reelected to the position you're in, because you're not thinking of the people in the county. You're only thinking of, let's get rid of a problem when it's not a problem. It's an actual thing we should be looking at doing. Why would we invest in somebody else's future, not ours? I can't understand it.
Thank you for your opinion, Dave. Beth? Your question?
I was gonna make more of a statement. The camp is 100% in Seneca County.
Yes.
So I do have a hard time understanding why the town of Ulysses and the village of Trumansburg are part of this.
It's closer to them than it is us.
Us.
But it is. No, it is. It is close. It's closer to them, and they're in a predicament there. They need a spot to for the recreation. They got the other side of Seneca Falls, and they have no place for their kids to recreate. The school won't let them on the property in the summer. Right now, they're using the fairgrounds, and that's kind of tight, and they have a fair there once in a while. So they're kind of limited on what they can do there. They're looking for some real estate for their summer rec, basically, their biggest kick. That's why they're throwing lots of money around. They're kind of desperate.
Like I had read that Village of Trumansburg's water supply is close by. Is that true?
It is there. Yeah.
Is that the camp?
Yeah. Trumansburg draws out of town of Covert.
Oh, okay.
They draw it pumped up the hill, and they got to treat it up the top of the hill on 89, and they pump it back down. They give the camps got, I don't want to say unlimited water, but they got water.
Sounds like maybe you need a little wheeling charge or something.
Just do it.
Okay, any other questions? Paul?
I'm not on the committee, but I hope everybody read the letter from the Doolittles. They're economic-minded for Seneca County. They were very instrumental and generous getting the white deer tours off the ground to benefit tourism in Seneca County. And I have a lot of respect for them. And this letter, holds very much interest. I hope you all read it.
Thank you. Dave? Go.
Mike, is your board fully in support of this also?
Majority is.
Majority?
Majority.
Oh, there.
Yeah, 2 against and 3 for.
Thanks.
Okay. Kyle, back?
It goes back around in a circle, I mean, I'm going to make the case for the town of Covert here. I think this is a very good example of conservation that we all have the opportunity to participate in. We should all stand for that. We should protect these public lands. It's a very small request. It's less than 10% of our tourism funds. We have it. It fulfills a purpose, and I think we have plenty of it. So in this case, I think it's a good idea. It's a little bit messy, Mike.
A little investment money is all it is. Little investment money, but
make sure our seat's at the table. But for $10,000, I think it's worth it.
Say we structured this the three entities. We can change that once we get this foot in the door through Albany, and we can come back and readjust this down the road. So I'm not saying. And the other thing is, you can have a B fund or a B group, where like you don't pay money, but you're still on the board. So there's other options out there too.
I mean, you're outnumbered the moment you sit down. If it's Covert, you listen.
Right. That's why we tried to restructure from the get-go. We wanted a super majority. It would take 5 votes to do anything.
Mr. Chairman.
They had already started it, so we couldn't. But I say once we get going on this, and we can come back and relook at it, and maybe we can restructure it and put Seneca County on there.
So thought based upon, I'm sorry, what was said and what Dave said earlier. So then, can't we just spend 30 grand since we have it and own the whole damn thing?
I think that's worthy of negotiation. I don't see why not. We might be a little late to the game.
I think we're a little too late to the game on that. The wheels are already turning. Like saying the application's already gone to Albany, so I don't know if we can.
But we were never approached.
It's pretty convenient. I'm sorry, Mike, but it's just upsetting that you would allow something like that to happen in your county. I really am sorry for you.
Mr. Heisen?
Yes, Mr. Shipley, thank you. We need to make this a county park down there. We don't need, it's like the Chinese buying land in Des Moines, Iowa, and the Chinese buying land in Texas. It's the same thing. If another county's gonna come over here and take our land. I was down there for a couple hours hiking around there. That is a nice place. That's a valuable piece of property. And it should be in the hands of Seneca County, and Seneca County should maintain it and run it. We got a lot deeper pockets, I'd say, than a Covert does. And we got a lot of vacation rental money that part of infrastructure can be used for. So you can't go wrong by us owning it. We're gonna be a lot better off. I sincerely believe it after being there.
Is it all in Seneca County?
Thank you.
All in Seneca County?
All in Seneca County, yeah.
It's all, yeah, you got another mile before you got get to Tompkins. You got another mile easy. There's lots of.
All right, anybody else?
Thank you, Mr.
Go ahead.
Shipley. Real quick, just a question. So I'm hearing that this 10,000 buy-in and Ulysses doesn't have the money for park and all. to have a park, or they can't use the school, so they're struggling, I think is what you said.
No place for the kids to go.
No place for the, so I guess my question is, if the state is just gonna own it, but they're not gonna put any money into it, how are these 3 towns ever gonna come up with the funds to maintain this park at the level that it should be?
They're gonna try grants.
Okay, but that's, we all know that's not a, I'm just, and I'm not trying to put anybody on the spot, I'm just trying to throw it out there that, you know, along with what Bob is saying, that the county's in a much better position to be involved in this, and I agree with Bob that, you know, this is, the county should look at this, and I think that the 3 towns, given what I've heard, are gonna probably financially struggle to make this a go, and I would hate to see it fall by the wayside, that's all.
So what are you actually proposing then?
I'm proposing it should be a county. We got to go talk to the other 2 towns in the village and say, hey, let us run it. It's in Seneca County, and we got deeper pockets to do this. I think we should all go down there and look at it.
I don't know. I'm just saying that the county, I think it should at least put it out there that we would be interested in having a conversation as to what our options may or may not be, and then bring it back, if that's even an option at this point. I don't know.
Right, we could. We've talked to Fred Pond there from the state parks a little bit about it. He's aware of us, so he knows it.
All right, next question is Don Trout.
It's more of a statement. If you want to give the money to Covert, give the money to Covert. I don't know about your townships, but there should be a longer conversation with our HR department about how badly our employees screw up constantly. You got a bad apple, you got problems, you know, you do have some serious situations that you can get into. I don't suggest we run anything. If you want to take possession of it and then sublet it to somebody else, do it. But the reason a lot of this stuff is available is because there's a massive lawsuit that they lost by the organization from a couple bad apples that made a lot of land available at the south end of the county in a horrible way, if you read about the lawsuit. So I don't know why we'd want to get into more of anything as far as the business goes. If Covert wants to do it, let Covert do it. But as far as the county goes, I don't suggest we run a park or anything else. We got enough to do. Let's go fix water and sewer districts. Let's go fix a million other things that we got going wrong around here before we jump into something else where we got to throw more money at it, more employees that are just going to cause us more problems. That's my feeling on it. You know what I mean? We got enough to do. Let's get back to the normal business that we do.
Thank you. Joe?
Another question for Mike. So let's say next year, you know, everything gets figured out and each of the 3 have to put $100,000 in and Covert doesn't have it. What happens then? Do you have an out? And in which case?
We could just step back and say, have at it, boys, and we just won't have any say in it anymore.
Then it'd be totally out of Seneca County then.
Right, out of control. It'll still be in Seneca County, but it'll be out of our control. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. No, I can step back and say, nope, can't do it, and let the other 2 do it. We'll probably have to regroup. If we need that kind of money, they'd have to probably regroup and say, well, maybe we'll scale it down. And so I don't know. Yeah.
Last question, Mike?
This is not coming to a full board vote tonight, correct?
No.
That's what I thought. So it comes out of committee, and then all these questions would be very pertinent when it comes out of committee in front of the full board, I would assume.
Absolutely.
Can I ask you one question? Excuse me. How did it come about, this trilogy? How did it come about?
Like I said, well, we knew the Boy Scouts were in dire straits there. They had to sell, just like Babcock and all the other ones. They all had to sell, and Mike, being the money grubber he is, he thought was just put it on the market there and sell it that way. But then somebody come along and got a hold of Fred Bond, the state parks, and said, "Hey, could you help us out here?" And Fred said, "Well, sure, we'd love to have more land." So, because Fred's in trouble there too, I guess they sell out Teganic.
But again, how did Ithaca and Ulysses get involved in this?
There's no Ithaca involved.
It's not Ithaca?
No Ithaca.
Trumansburg and Ulysses, I'm sorry.
Yes. No.
How did they get involved?
Well, they came to them.
Just because of location?
Yeah, just location. It's close to them. It's in what? It's probably 2-3 miles from the village. Probably it's only 3 miles from the village.
It's on the county border, so maybe.
Well, then they got their waterworks is in there too. So they're there every day, literally.
I mean, I love this, I don't care who operates it, I love the idea of another.
I was done, Kyle, thanks.
End of the county.
No problem.
This brings traffic, this brings economic development, this is a net positive.
Okay, we can ask a lot of questions.
One last point, but.
Okay, Bob.
Wait, Don said about leasing it out, I agree that we should run it, but we should probably lease it out to somebody else to oversee it and manage it. That can be done too.
Okay. All right. If there's no more questions, this is the committee vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye. In the opinion of the chair, that motion is defeated.
Defeated, or
2-1 in the positive.
who's a no?
Well, yeah, who's on
I didn't say anything. I'll say aye to get it to the full board.
I say aye, so there's Kyle, there's three.
Okay. I'll revise that then. In my opinion, that motion is now passed and will go to the board for further review and questions.
Good time.
So how was the vote? What was the final vote?
It passed.
Going to the board, Bob.
3-1.
3-1?
Going to the board, Bob.
2, 3.
Okay, next issue, new business. We have a request from the Seneca Falls Historic Society. And we have their application for a under a community celebration planned for this fall, that they are seeking a $2,500 request from the committee. Is there a motion for discussion?
So move.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Kyle?
Yeah, I've reviewed this, it matches the policy. It's a great event in Seneca Falls. This looks like a great grant application that should pull tourists into the county.
Any other questions from the committee? Any questions from the full board? Without any more questions?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I'm a little slow. I'm sorry. Is there a cutoff on applications for these types of requests? You know what I'm saying?
We have a policy that gives a maximum funding for 4 out of the 5 categories.
Okay, but I mean, somebody can make a request in November for fiscal year 20. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Without any further questions, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is passed. And we have one other issue from the Lodi Summer Festival. They initially sent in their application for a $1,500 request for a summer festival. The maximum is $2,500. Kyle, you were going to review that?
Yeah, so I read through this. They actually wanted to request 8,000.
Well, that doesn't meet the
Yeah, they
policy.
applied under all 4 categories, but looking at this, I think what would be appropriate, and again, this is another good event that brings tourists into the county. I think it would be appropriate in line with the one that we just passed from Seneca Falls to approve the community celebration.
You want to make a motion for discussion?
Yeah, so I'll move to award the Lodi Summer Festival with a $2,500 grant under the county tourism.
Is there a second?
Community celebration.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded. Okay, now we're in a discussion, and you're saying that I did not see any.
Do we have a piece of paper on this somewhere in our thing?
Nothing in my.
What they sent was a spreadsheet, and they had under
The whole thing, and then here's the cost.
cost,
Thanks.
they had a $2,500 contribution from the county. Did I miss something?
Yeah, on the last page, there's a spreadsheet, and at the bottom row, it summarizes all of the expenses as per the policy. So I think it's 2,500 in column 1, 2,500 in column 2, 1,500 in column 3, and 1,500 in column 4. I think
Okay.
column 1's the most appropriate without.
Is that
blowing the
different?
Policy out of the water.
I don't know what you're looking at.
I just gave away all my paperwork to Mike, so neither do I.
I got it. You can go back. You can go back.
Thank you. That wouldn't follow our guidelines.
Community celebrations is up to 2,500, is it not?
That's right. That's maximum.
Yeah, so that's what I would suggest that we award.
Okay.
So you want the 2,500, right? Yeah.
So you wish to amend the motion
Sure, so.
as described.
So amended, yes.
Any other discussion? Okay, first we'll vote on the amended motion for a maximum of $2,500. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now the amended resolution for $2,500 is amended. All in favor?
Right.
Opposed? That's passed. Okay. We do not have any other further business under this committee, so the Economic Development and Tourism stands adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Shipley. Next up is Health and Human Services, Supervisor Borst.
Thank you, Chairman Enslow. Call the Health and Human Services Committee to order. First up, Health Department authorized to request bids for the annual household hazardous waste collection event. Can I get a motion in a second? Got a second on that?
Second.
Okay. Scott, go ahead.
Thank you. So obviously this event is very popular with county residents. It's occurred for many years. Last year we collected hazardous waste from 165 households. That's not necessarily, addresses per se. We consider a household based on the amount of hazardous waste collected. You bring us one fluorescent light bulb, it doesn't count as a household per se, but so probably 150 to 200 actual, county residents. Additionally, we accepted tires from 50 households. We did all this for an upfront cost of just under $16,000, of which we received 50% reimbursement from the DEC. We would anticipate again, once this goes out to bid and we get our vendor, last couple of years we've had Clean Harbors. They've worked very well with us. We would anticipate probably scheduling the event in the fall again. Typically it's been around October timeframe. So this resolution would allow us to submit for bids and then ultimately to ask for reimbursement from DEC.
Okay. Any other questions for Scott?
How much, you said they reimbursed you for tires. Do they reimburse total or just tires? Or they just support half?
So we actually don't pay a fee to dispose of the tires. We handle that locally here in partnership with the landfill, and we coordinate to get them trucked.
Sending them out takes them for free then?
Correct.
Right, nice.
So that hasn't been a charge, so we're thankful and grateful to them for that partnership. So the $16,000 or just shy of that is just for household hazardous waste disposal.
I'm gonna have to get some tires down there on that day.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Issue number 2, county manager authorized and directed to sign a contract with the New York State Department of Health for the Water Enhancement Grant.
Second.
Okay. Go ahead, Scott.
So this is an annual grant from the State Health Department. It's the same amount that we received last year. We use these monies for, to offset our environmental health salaries and fringe lines, as well as covering the costs of things like the required water samples we have to take at public water supply systems. And that ranges from the large municipal systems to the small systems that we regulate, like wineries and campgrounds and such. We can also use the money to offset the costs of our septic program, as review and regulation of septic systems does fall under the allowable expenses for the water enhancement grant. And I just would want to take this opportunity to give you a heads up that year 2 of the septic program is starting here. We'll be sending out letters to the next 2 towns in the next 2 to 3 weeks. The next 2 towns would be Lodi and Seneca Falls. So waterfront well owners of properties within 250 feet of the lake in those two towns will be receiving letters advising them to do their septic system inspections or have those done by November 1st. Additionally, we'll be sending out what we call late letters to folks who failed to meet the requirement in the first two towns last year. Our compliance rate was north of 60%, but we need to send another round of letters to those folks. A little bit more of a stern letter since they missed the requirement last year. Still though, our goal is not to hand out fines and so forth. Our goal is compliance with the law. So those letters will be going out to property owners in Ovid and Fayette that missed the requirement last year.
Okay. Any other questions from the committee? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Issue number 3, county manager authorized and directed to sign a contract with New York State Department of Health for the tobacco enforcement grant.
Support. Second.
So this is another housekeeping grant. It's an annual grant from the State Health Department. Again, the same amount as last year. And we use these funds to conduct, education and prevention around tobacco, as well as to do, folks call them stings. We're supposed to call them underage compliance checks, where we actually send minors, well, they're not minors anymore, under 21, since it's tobacco 21, we send 19 or 21-year-olds into stores to attempt to purchase tobacco products. And if a purchase is made, we take enforcement action. In the past year, we did have one sale at a facility, and there, fines set forth by the Adolescent Tobacco Prevention Act that we have to levy, and those that business owner stipulated, paid the minimum fine. They get points on their license, and then we re-inspect those facilities that have had failures or sales to underage persons more frequently for the next couple of years after that. And this program also covers the costs of keeping track of those businesses that have chosen to sell the flavored tobacco products, which is against the law in New York State, the watermelon flavored vape type stuff. We've actually sent letters to three businesses in the last couple of months and advised them. I think we gave them 5 days to cease and desist sale of those, worked with Attorney Atman for some language in those letters. So that all falls under this. And they did comply, by the way. Okay. Any questions in the committee? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Issue number 4, county manager authorized and directed sign a contract in New York State Department of Health for the Immunization Action Grant.
Support.
A second?
Second.
Okay.
So another housekeeping grant here from the State Health Department. Again, same amount we were awarded last year. The monies for this grant are used to support our, education outreach to the community and providers about vaccinations. We also use it to fund our Vaccines for Children program, where we vaccinate underinsured or uninsured children in our office. That's a bi-monthly clinic that we operate, and very successful and very important program.
Okay. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Issue number 5, county manager authorized and directed to sign a contract with New York State Department of Health for year 2 of the Healthy Neighborhoods Preventative Health Cornerstones Grant and amend 2023 budget.
Or
all right, got a motion and a second. Go ahead, Scott.
So we've talked about this one a couple times fairly recently. This grant is intended to identify and mitigate residential injuries and environmental health hazards in folks' homes. We are now off the ground and conducting these assessments, utilizing 2 existing public health staffers and a public health corps fellow. I did listen to your concerns at recent meetings about this only covering certain zip codes in the county. So we do have a request into State Health to consider adding in the rest of the zip codes for the county. I don't have an answer on that yet. As soon as I do, I'll let you know. Again, that was based on their algorithm, not on any request from our department to leave parts of the county out. But we're gonna step up to the plate and giving it a shot to see if they'll give us approval to get into the rest of the county. So so we're on into year 2.
Okay. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Issue 6, county manager authorized and directed to sign contracts with service providers for the 3 to 5 preschool program.
Support.
Second on that?
Second.
Okay.
Thank you. So the health department is required to secure contracts with agencies and individuals to provide these professional therapy services such as speech and OT and so forth. And I think it was 2017, there was a regulatory change that allowed schools to offer these services to 3 to 5 year olds. Most at that time didn't have a need to do that. And so they didn't reach out to us for contracts. More recently, however, due to the state's lower reimbursement rates, there is a shortage of providers, especially to provide the evaluations, because we can't connect these kids with the services they need until they have a professional evaluation. And so these school districts have reached out to us and said that they would like to put an evaluation team together and then contract with us to provide these evals to get the kids connected with the services they need faster. I would point out that this won't cost the county more money. We'd pay some other provider just 3 months later to do an eval. Somebody's got to do the eval, so if it's not paying the school, it would be to pay a Happiness House or somebody else. But some of those other providers, currently they have a 3 to 4 month backlog to get these evaluations done. So contracting with these school districts, if they pick up some of this, will help the children in the county get connected to the services. And ultimately, we do get reimbursed 59.5% of what we spend on this program from the State Health Department.
Great. Any questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. All right, issue number 7. Seneca County Division of Human Services to contract with Children's Home of Wyoming Conference Incorporated for child welfare preventative services for at-risk youth with juvenile justice and criminal justice concerns.
Support. Second.
Okay, Tracy, go ahead.
We have some new mandates that were required as of December 29th of last year that we've been working with the Children's Home on meeting these requirements. These are additional services that my preventive staff would have to do with. Frankly, they just don't have the time for. So the new mandates are surrounding raise the age kids that are 16 and 17 that already have charges of JD charges, whatever they may be, offender charges. Then there are children 12 to 15 that we have to, inquire JD charges or PIN charges that we have to do certain programming for. And then children 7 to 11 no longer can receive JD or PIN charges, so we have to do yet another differential response for them. So the programming I already knew about, I had already put the funding in the 2023 budget, but this is the agency that we're going to be working with.
Okay. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Issue number 8, Seneca County Division of Human Services to contract with children awaiting parents, Donald J. Corbett Adoption Agency for Kinship Champion Family Finding Services. Support.
Second.
Aye.
This is another new mandate that we're being required to do through Office of Children and Family Services. Because of the Family First Act, we're required to look for kinship within the state, out of state, and we have to have a whole new training series done by our supervisors. Right now, we're the only ones doing this, again, because my staff are already mandated with all of their caseloads. They're at their highest level that they can go. And we also have to have this whole new program with interstate compact placement of children. So when we look at family members outside of the state, there's this whole other process we have to do, 2 separate computer programs, even separate from the programs we're currently using that staff have to get trained in. And any children that are coming to Seneca County, which we do have a couple of those because they have kin here, we also have to supervise those children when they come here. So this is another agency that already has experience in this, that we've already worked with through our adoption and family finding services through ICPC, who is willing to come in and help us do this training and go through this and go out with our caseworkers to advise families of their requirements that they have to do, their options, because there's several different options they can do. So they can require funding, they can adopt children, they can become foster homes. And then they would help them through the certification of foster care if that's the option that the family chooses.
Great. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Issue number 9, Resolution of the Seneca County Board of Supervisors authorizing participation in settlement of the matter of national prescription opiate litigation pertaining to CVS, Walgreens, and Walmart.
Support.
Second.
And Dave, go ahead.
Really very straightforward. I received notice a few weeks ago that they had resolved the Walmart, CVS, and Walgreens component of the nationwide multi-party settlement. It'll set up another stream of payments out to roughly 2040, the bulk of which will be paid over the next 12 years. There are still several defendants still outstanding, but this is the next stage in the interim settlement. So I would ask the board's authority to settle enter into the settlement agreement with the rest of the state.
Okay. Any questions on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Issue number 10, board authorization to apply for the SAM HSA Certified Community Behavioral Health Clinic CCBHC Improvement and Advancement Grant.
Motion.
Got a second? Second. Margaret.
Thank you. So the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, which is a federal agency, just dropped their Certified Community Behavioral Health Center grant. What this would do, applying for this and being awarded this, would allow us to sustain our 24/7 crisis response program and improve upon our current clinic services. I'm proposing that you allow, there's no county match, so our grant for our current SAMHSA grant, which we've been very successful with, should give us a leg up, so to speak, because we've shown that we can be very successful using their funding and doing the reporting, the data collection that they require of us. So there's potentially $1 million a year for 4 years available in this grant, and there is no county match.
Great. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Gary?
Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. Any unfinished business? Any new business? We stand adjourned.
Thank you, Supervisor Borst. Next up is Public Works Supervisor Don Trout.
Thank you, Chairman. Issue 1, supervisors approve requests for proposals for curbside recycling services and recycling contract in Seneca County.
Support.
Second.
Motion made and probably seconded. Take her away.
Okay. Well, we're in the last year with Cardinal. We have to, if we want to continue the recycling program, we would need to bring that out for RFP. And July would be a good time frame after talking with the county manager to have that to be done so we can budget in 2024, depending on what we get back.
Quick question, because you've been handling this for a long time now. Been doing a good job. The Casella program for zero sort recycling, you know, you just throw everything together, it goes through their little conveyors, everything else. Have we ever looked into what it might take to implement that program versus what we do now?
We do zero sort.
Okay.
Yeah, that's.
So this is just the vendor that's picking the stuff up to take it to zero sort.
Right.
Got it.
Yeah.
Questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next up, supervisors approve purchase of one 2025 automatic HX 520 6x4 10-wheeler for the highway department. Motion and a second.
Second.
Motion made and probably seconded. We're buying a 10-wheeler. It's a lot of money. Right, Roy?
That's right.
Look at that. It's almost $300,000 for you two.
I know.
That's ridiculous.
Mr. Chairman.
Questions? Go ahead.
Just quick, I know on the I just look, is that really a model year 2025 that they're putting out, or is that?
We won't get it.
Or yeah, that's when we're gonna get it.
June.
Maybe. Maybe. I bet it's more like 2027.
Is there a chance the price is gonna change in between now?
Not if we get the well, last year it went up.
Mine changed 4 times, Roy.
Was it 27?
I still don't have it.
Yeah, and yours went up right down?
Mine's changed 4 times since I ordered it. I mean, we started at, I think, 258. I'm up to almost this number. I'm like 292 now, and every time I make a resolution or sign a contract, don't seem to matter. They tell me if I want the truck, you know, you're gonna pay.
The truck pay
Oh.
So-
I just didn't know if that's when you plan on getting it, that's all.
This is how you get in line, though. You know what I mean? Hey, we need a truck. Maybe you'll get it in 5 years.
You said February 24.
They couldn't even get me a regular dually on time. I mean, we're a year behind now for that, you know, so that's fun. All right, questions?
This is diesel?
Diesel, stainless steel box, automatic, 10-wheeler, snowplow equipment, everything.
And they're gonna come out with electric.
We were talking about that today in snowplows.
That could actually work, other than, I don't know what they're gonna do about the batteries when it's 0 degrees, because in my experience, batteries don't work when it's 0 degrees. So when you're plowing, I don't know if that's the best way to go.
Let it go.
The battery technology needs some help, right, Joe?
Yes, it does. They have to heat up a long time before they can actually be efficient.
Yeah, I mean, even out on the road too. I mean, they get out there and they get cold, you're done. More questions? Hearing none, motion made and probably second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, supervisor approved purchase of 1 new CAT CB7 roller for the highway department. Need a motion in a second. Motion made and probably seconded. Roy, it's a roller.
Roller.
That pushes stuff in the ground. Questions? Motion made and probably second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, thank you.
That's right.
When's that coming?
50 grand.
Next week.
Anything new to come before Public Works? Good, we're adjourned.
Thank you, Supervisor Don Trout. Next up, Supervisor Crowenweather, Agricultural and Environmental Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First up, the Seneca County Board of Supervisors opposes proposed changes to New York State Soil and Water Conservation District. I've talked with Erin about it, and I'll turn it over to her, let her explain it. I'll add to it if I can.
So there's a New York State Conservation District law. It's existed for over 80 years that governs how soil and water districts are formed and function, how our boards are set up and governed. And we recently learned about an organization called the Watershed Health Coalition. My understanding is it's made up of a group of lawyers whose motto is education through legislation. And they've drafted a soil health bill that has components of it focused around soil health and cover cropping. But within that bill, they also have wide sweeping changes that involve changes to New York State district law. And the most alarming changes that soil and water districts are concerned with include removing 2 of our representatives, our Farm Bureau and our Grange member, from the soil and water district boards and replacing them with academia positions. So that would be removing all local oversight and agricultural reps on the soil and water district boards. The other concern is that they want to take the 2 supervisor positions currently held by Mike Reynolds and Jeff Trout that are currently appointed and make them into elected positions.
What?
What?
Elected positions. Yeah. So they also want to take what soil and water districts function on a county level and make that more of a watershed approach. So again, the local needs within Seneca County are different than the local needs within Tompkins County. So if you're going to do it on a watershed approach, you're just changing how we function. They also want a funding mechanism for this organization earmarked into the EPF, the Environmental Protection Fund, which would result in less state funds coming to local soil and water districts. So the districts already are doing most of the proposed items in the soil health that the soil health bill is proposing. We prioritize our assistance. They want to prioritize the assistance to underserved farmers and small farms. Soil and water districts serve anyone who comes into the door or asks for assistance. And most of Seneca County farms are already made up of small farms, so we're already doing that. And I already explained New York State District Law, but it's a kind of a broad sweeping piece of legislation on purpose so that we can keep it flexible and make it meet the local needs on all levels across the entire state. So these changes would have drastic changes to soil and water districts and how we function, how we are structured, and how we implement our best management practices to farmers, landowners, and manage our natural resources. So opening the law makes it subject to other potential changes as well. So if this gets sponsored and it's opened up, it's possible that other things could be added to that bill. So we're asking, I guess I'll add to, all of the soil and water districts are going to their local counties. I believe Mitch has been approached at the Association of Counties meeting. Currently, I'm aware of 18 other counties within the state that are also passing this resolution opposing the changes. And I believe there's others that are in the process of doing what we're doing right now.
Any questions?
How quick do we have to act on this?
I'm not, as soon as possible, I would say, because I think this group is looking for a sponsor for the bill. So as soon as they get a sponsor, it could be moved into legislation.
Well, they don't have a sponsor yet for it?
The last I had heard anything was back in December, January. They currently did not have a sponsor.
So we don't have to worry about having it done by April 1st.
No, I don't believe so.
Good.
Well, this would take all local control out of our soil and water. That the way it's been run for the last 80 years has seemed to work. Like I spoke with Aaron earlier today, you know, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So, and they said lawyers and academia were going to be involved, and that scared the hell out of me. I would.
I move that we approve the resolution.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now, while you're up here,
I was going to say one thing. We should send it to every county in New York State.
I think they have.
I believe most counties are doing the same thing.
Well, I would like to skip to issue number 3 while Aaron's here. The Board of Supervisors authorizes a 5-year memorandum of agreement between Seneca County and the Seneca County Soil and Water Conservation District for provisions of services and funding process. We have one with the Cornell Cooperative Extension, and something that's not in writing with Soil and Water that Aaron would like to put in place.
Yep. I move we approve the contract.
Second.
See how easy that was?
Thank you.
We'll have a vote on this. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Amendment passed. I thank you very much, Aaron.
Okay.
I think that's all we have for you.
Okay.
Item number 2, supervisors support sending a letter to local and state representatives urging the New York State DEC to complete a study regarding the high phosphorus levels in Cuba Lake. It's always the highest HAB count of any of the Finger Lakes. And if you've read the letter here, it sums it up. They said they were going to have a total maximum daily load limit in 2017, and they haven't gotten around to finishing this report yet. The different Cuba Lake Watershed Intermunicipal Organization and different organizations like that is saying, and Finger Lakes Institute, Jeff and I were at a meeting with them, and they're saying the same thing. Why are you dragging your feet? You know, we have to have this. So this is just asking our attorney to direct a letter with basically this wording in it to our state representatives and the DEC. See if they can get the ball rolling on a total maximum daily load limit of phosphorus in Cuga Lake, which they promised in 2017.
How are they gonna, what was the plan to lower the phosphorus levels as far as?
That's up for them to decide in the report.
Well, and it's Paul and I went to that meeting, it's gonna be a challenge because that upwells, there's a lot of phosphorus already there in the sediment that can be recycled and be brought up. So we were talking right at that workshop, I mean, literally 20 years or so, you're gonna have, there's a very long cycle of that coming up.
Yeah, if they didn't put another ounce of phosphorus in it, there would still be residual phosphorus in the sediment. But they had promised a total maximum daily load limit going into the lake. So
I'd just like to see farmers get paid to rebuild hedgerows and do things like that. That would, you know, make more sense to keep more of their shit out of the.
Well, that's that's soil and water's goal. That's.
I was going to say, Don, that's something we've talked about on the Soil and Water Board. In fact, when I first got on, we were talking with Aaron about incentives to continue to do best practices.
Yeah, I mean, I just can't see a lot of the guys doing it without paying them. You know, they're in a tough spot.
That's the goal. Best management practices. You know. So.
Paul, do they have something like that set up for Seneca Lake? Total, you know.
Total maximum. They don't have the phosphorus load that Cuga Lake has.
They have a 9-element plan.
Yeah, they have a 9-element plan. Do I have?
So moved.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now, what do we got here? I sent an email out. I don't know if you all read it, from the Seneca Lake Pure Waters Association. They use their fundraising money for actual sediment reduction, and just like the Soil and Water does, they use their funding for actual boots on the ground erosion control and water retention and stuff like that. And they have a fundraising right now that somebody's matching the money that they're raising. They're looking for $5,000. I'd like to propose $2,500 of our tourism money for the Seneca Lake Pure Waters Association, because I know go to actual soil erosion control and, you know, maybe keep some phosphorus on the land.
Can I speak to that?
Sure.
So Seneca Lake Pure Waters does have the sediment nutrient reduction program. They offer those grants to soil and water districts and the SWEO group. Seneca County Soil and Water has been the recipient of 2 of them. They're in their second round. So we've received 2 of those funding rounds to implement best management practices. And how that works is they will match up to $10,000 in funding for a project, and then we use other either state funding sources and landowner match to help pay for the rest of those BMPs.
Aaron, wasn't that the Boundary Breaks project? Wasn't
Correct.
that one of those?
That was, yes, and we have another one we'll be implementing this spring.
Any other question?
I'll make that motion.
Second. All right, I got a first and motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much, folks. We can help as much as we can.
And then pass the whole board yet.
Yeah, well, I know you.
I was just thinking
that. I think, do we have any unfinished business? Any new business?
Yeah, question.
Yes.
How about the weed harvesting program? Is that a go?
Yeah, that's a go. I asked Aaron if we have any specs on the new trailer yet. and,
Mr. Chairman, I was gonna say, why don't we invite Aaron to talk about the results of the hydrilla, just real quickly?
Yeah.
And then how that impacts or does not impact.
And I can lead into the weed harvesting stuff too, if you want.
Not a lot, just.
No, little bit. There's not a lot to report on. So hydrilla was, I don't know if you are all aware, but hydrilla is an extremely invasive aquatic plant that was discovered probably about 10 years ago in the Ithaca area and also in Aurora about 3 years ago. And they have been chemically treating those areas. It was just discovered off the shores of Sheldrake Point and Weirs Point. And I believe that was this past fall, October 2022. New York State DEC is the lead agency for a treatment plan on the Sheldrake and Weirs Point areas, and they're formulating that plan right now. It will likely look something similar to how they've treated Aurora and the Ithaca patches of hydrilla, which is a granular herbicide applications and during the summer months when hydrilla is growing, and will be applied by like third-party contractor that DEC will hire. They will have to go through a permit process and includes a public comment period. And the applications of the herbicide will be kept below, what they're telling us, they'll be kept below human health, public health thresholds. So the treatment is not going to be a one and done. They've been treating Ithaca, I think, for about 10 years now. So we're looking at probably a decade to actually hopefully eradicate. I don't know if there's truly ever any eradication of it. But they are also, DEC and the Finger Lakes Prism are also going to continue surveying efforts in the rest of the lake to monitor for other hydrilla patches. And the presence of the hydrilla nor the treatment will likely impact the soil and water aquatic weed harvesting efforts in the north part of the county. But with that said, just because of the natural flow and the drainage of the lake flowing to the north, I think it's just a matter of time before hydrilla is actually found in other parts of the lake, and at which point the DEC official that we met with the other day said that that would mean that all mechanical harvesting efforts would have to halt so they could likely chemically treat it. Yes.
Hydrilla, I mean, I don't know exactly how it works. I see that you can't cut it because more of it grows. Has there ever been an effort to just go out there with an aquatic excavator and just dig that out?
Yes, in Cayuga County, there was, I think it's Cayuga County, there was an area called Don's Marina, and they did dredging. It was a very small patch just within the marina, so I think they felt like they could cut that off and contain it, and so they just dredged that area instead of chemically treating it.
You know
How'd that go?
I believe it was successful, but I don't know.
Okay.
Good, we'll dredge the whole north end of the lake.
I like it. Make it deeper, bigger boats.
But you have to contain it when you do it so that it doesn't, spread it, right?
Yeah.
You have to dam up the.
Which is why they wouldn't want us to harvest, because it spreads by fragmentation.
Aaron, do you know what the herbicide is that they use?
I think it's called Sonar.
It's called Sonar H4C, and they also use harpoon granular. There's two different types of. We're fortunate, Mary Jump that I brought here a year or so ago, she was involved with this when it was applied in the village of Aurora, because Wells College, which supplies water to the village of Aurora, their intake is right there. So the health department was involved in that treatment and that whole situation. And so, like Aaron said, the amount that they apply does stay below thresholds for concerns for public health. DEC has already reached out to our office, and Mary got some help from folks in planning, and DEC requested information on all the property owners, addresses and so forth, to make the eventual public notice, so that they're aware before it happens and so forth. I recall in Cuba, done down at Wells College Dock, there was some signage put up. The signage was put up by Army Corps. frankly, we weren't thrilled with the language. We had a PhD, it felt like to read the sign. DEC, I think, is gonna do the signage this time around.
Yes, Mary did express that concern, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, mostly it's not a concern for irrigation and so forth. It does, at very low levels, have some, you know, if you were to water your, they call them nightshade plants, tomatoes, peppers, I think the other one, eggplant, so forth, that we may grow around here. We don't grow any tobacco here, we kill tobacco too. It is a concern for that, but it's not a concern for most other agricultural applications. So if someone pulls it to irrigate, at the levels they will apply it at, it wouldn't be a concern. And we don't have any, luckily, intakes in the lake down there like we did in Cuba, so we don't have to worry about that.
What year was that?
I think, I want to say it was about 2016. They discovered it in Aurora, and then they treated maybe in 17 or 18, I forget. Usually by the time they find these patches and it's large enough to see, you know, it's been there for a couple of years. I think DEC indicated, correct me if I'm wrong, with the patches that I drilled, they spotted down near Sheldrake, they suspect it's been growing there for about 2 years maybe. And like Aaron said, you know, if you chop it up, then it spreads much more easily, and it can also spread itself through roots, almost like potatoes and that type of thing. So it can spread itself in more ways than just the one. I think I recall in Cuba they started treatment late June and then treated through the summer. Because I think it depends on water temperature, and they look at the plants. They actually send divers down sometimes for small patches to pull the plants by hand and so forth. So,
was that funded by the DEC, or is that a contributing factor to their bills over there? Because at one point their bills were ridiculous in Aurora for water.
I don't know. It didn't affect any of the.
Okay.
I mean, Mary would be better to answer that, but no, it didn't. They didn't apply that to the consumer, you know.
Okay. Good.
I was at a press conference with Chuck Schumer at the boat launch in Cuba Lake State Park when he says the herbicide that they're using has no effect on anything but hydrilla. It doesn't hurt the fish.
Oh, he's a professional.
Anybody, it's just like mother's milk.
Well, I mean,
tell him to drink a glass.
It is an herbicide.
Maybe your mother. I don't know.
You know, they aim to get it, I think, around 20 parts per billion down where the plant is. That's well below the threshold for public water supplies. And typically, in fact, Mary was telling me today that, you know, that because we would sample or require the village to sample in Aurora or college actually, but they barely had any trace amounts coming into their plant, so it didn't really make it into the public water supply system. Certainly not at any levels of concern. It's a targeted herbicide.
Yeah.
It sits on the bottom, goes after the plant. I share, you know, Aaron's concern that, you know, they may, you know, win the battle, but unfortunately 10 years ago it was in the inlet, and a few years ago it was in Aurora, and now it's in Sheldrake. It's the #1 invasive species classified by USDA for water invasives.
Yeah, it's really not good. Florida's spending millions and millions and millions of dollars trying to keep channels open, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it grows so thickly you can't motorboat through it. It can reduce fish spawning habitat, and it can actually increase harmful algae blooms because it increases the dissolved oxygen in the water. So it's a concern for sure. So we want to do everything we can to support DEC to go after this stuff.
There's an organization that's vehemently against using herbicide to treat it. It says, well, the lake's 400 feet deep, how could it possibly affect us? And we've had it for 30 years and there hasn't been any notice. And, you know, they'll raise a stink during the public comment period.
Yeah, I mean,
Cuba Lake anglers.
Stuff can grow out.
That'll affect short-term vacation rentals.
Yeah.
The lake is solid.
Shallow areas around your dock, even further out.
Green Lake.
Well, Bob and I remember when the Cuba Lake Weed Control Association, Bob Morehouse was on the flatbed barge that he used to put the docks in with the a crank fertilizer spreader spreading 2,4-D all over.
Oh, Jesus.
the lake. We didn't have any weeds at all. It worked great. The village of Cuga didn't like it in their intake water.
They got over it.
Had to quit doing that. Everybody went back to a bag of copper sulfate in their basement for around their docks. So.
Thanks, Aaron.
Do it again, probably. Any other questions? Thank you very much, Aaron, for bringing us up to date. And thank you, Scott. I believe the Agriculture and Environmental Affairs Committee is closed.
Thank you very much. All right, next up, Public Safety and Criminal Justice Supervisor Reinhardt.
Did you?
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Next up is actually Intergovernmental Affairs Supervisor Barnhart.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Intergovernmental Affairs has no business in front of it tonight. Is there any unfinished business from the committee? Nope. Is there any new business from the committee? Intergovernmental Affairs is adjourned.
Thank you, Supervisor Barnhart. All right. Again, Supervisor Reinhardt, Public Safety and Criminal Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first issue, Board of Supervisors authorizes contract with Squad 9 Limited Liability Corporation for consulting services. Support. Second. Sheriff?
Good evening. This is we're trying to get authorization to contract with Squad 9 LLC. Squad 9 LLC is a company that the retired FBI agents, they've been running what they call Rock Tech in Rochester. It's a Rochester Threat Advisory Committee. And this is all stems from Governor Hochul's mandate under the Executive Order 18 that every county in the state has to come up with a preventing and responding to domestic terrorism plan and committee to fight domestic terrorism. So, but luckily, in the last couple months or so, we've already accepted a grant of $172,000, which is quite unusual to be funded for something that's a mandate.
Any questions from the committee? Sheriff, just one question. I just want to make sure I understand where it talks about the threat assessment for them to do this for $23,600, and then the next paragraph it talks about they two separate things, or
yeah, that they did. Well, it's coming out of that grant. They already wrote the grant for us. They had to write it to send it in and get approved by the Department of Homeland Security. So they did that already. And the grant is for $172,000. So they have to, what we're going to have to do is partner, and we've already started the process, partnering with the health department, emergency management, 911, the police agencies in the county. We had to partner with some businesses like Ghouls and probably the landfill and Delago to sit on a committee, and then they're going to teach us how to look for threat assessments and analyze those things and stuff, and hopefully stop any threats in our county.
Okay. Any other questions?
I have one question. Given the environment of police and regular people out in the environment, how exactly does this work, Sheriff, where you're not racially profiling people and stuff like that? You know what I mean? I mean, when it comes to that level, how exactly is that going to work?
I think the FBI has done a study on this. They've been studying this for 50 years. I just got a book from I met with the FBI last week down in Corning. Many of the sheriffs were there. Ron Spike was there, Jim Mallard from Steuben. There was a couple other sheriffs there, and that's what they were showing us, that there is a plan set up that they've already done, and that's what this plan is going to be kind of set by, because this company, Squad 9 LLC, are all retired FBI agents who have basically set this up, and they've been running this in Rochester for 2 or 3 years now, I believe.
So in the Rochester, if we could look into that a little bit, has there been a situation where, they've gotten under extreme scrutiny for not following the proper procedure and that, I just don't want to, I don't want to deal with lawsuits. I don't think
they've fallen into any of those processes yet. And it's tough in the fact that I think, I'm just talking off the top of my head now, that sometimes it's like patrolling on the road. Sometimes you talk about things, you watch a person or something, or you check into something, maybe mental health talks to a child in the school if he's a target that we think may be a problem down the road, and they give them some help, and you may have averted something you don't even know you averted.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
So they've been doing it a long, 50 years?
50 years.
50 years. All right, we got a track record anyway.
Don't wear any red baseball caps.
I am not going out at night.
Any other questions from the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you, carried. Number 2, authorize and acceptance distribution number 10, grant for the New York State Office of Indigent Legal Services. Support. Second, thank you. Are you speaking for Mears?
Public Defender Mears had to leave, so I just wanted to answer any questions. This is a grant that's a continuation of the Distribution 9 grant for one of his public defenders. Mr. Ricky's salary and fringes are what it supports, and it is just a continuation.
No local match?
No local match.
Any questions from the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Carried. There's no unfinished business or any new business to be brought before Public Safety Criminal Justice. Hearing none, committee is closed. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor Reinhardt. Next up, Water and Sewer Treatment Management and Operations. Supervisor Hayes.
Thank you very much, Chairman. The only issue we have is an ongoing issue with the water sewer treatment. We found out at our last committee meeting last week that there might not be a need for that emergency money for a house for a meter outside of 5 Points. Apparently we found information after the fact that the state has put in a new meter and repaired the valve. So now we're at a standstill to figure out where we stand with the levels at which there have been reporting, if it's different than the old meter to the new meter. So it's an ongoing issue, but it doesn't look like we're going to need that emergency funding that we thought we were going to have to use. That's the water. The sewer, we still have gotten nothing from the 5 Points on, or from docs at all on any contributions to the sewer treatment. So wrong. Is everything good there, Mitch? I mean,
a couple things.
We missed the meeting, but that's okay.
Yeah, and I apologize for missing the meeting. We are working on trying to get a meeting set up with docs so that we can progress the conversation regarding the new meter, the old meter, and if there's any way we can jointly participate in the readings going forward. I'll keep you posted. Speaking of readings, a reminder that 2 special Water and Sewer Committee meetings ago down in Willard. I believe my notes are tomorrow's the day for everybody to try to read the meters.
Yep.
Between the town and the county. Tomorrow, everybody good with that?
Yes.
Yep.
And we're going to see what impact that may have on, I don't know if I want to call it loss factor, but to see what everybody, the towns in the county that are all interfacing, everybody reading on the same day, what that might do to the numbers, if you will, for this first quarter. The other thing is tomorrow, the Wendell firm, which the board had voted to take over and do our engineering, will be making a site visit to at least to Willard today, if not also to 5 Points. Dan Duddleston will be meeting them. I am planning probably not to spend the whole, I think they're going to maybe be there 3 or 4 hours doing a full assessment. I am planning to be down there at least for a little bit. I have a couple documents that Brian, the lead at Wendell, asked for. So we should be receiving a somewhat of a formal proposal from them after tomorrow's visit. And there is some grant funding available that they've offered to assist us with for the next phase of engineering work. So that's it.
Thank you, Mitch. Does anybody have any questions? That's for myself or Mitch. Okay, so there's no unfinished business. Is there any new business? Committee adjourned.
Thank you, Supervisor Hayes. Next up is Human Resources and Government Operations, Supervisor Jeff Trout.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll call this committee to order. The first issue in front of us is the longevity policy.
Support.
Second.
Second. Any questions? All those in favor? Aye. Next issue is the creation and filling of one full-time probation officer and the abolishment of one full-time probation assistant. Second? Second. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next issue is the reclassification of a staff development coordinator from grade 4 to grade 5.
So move.
Second.
Second. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next issue is to refill an MEO heavy in the highway department.
Support.
Second.
Second. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, before you go, I know are we able to do the new business before we come out? Or do we have to go into the, I only had just one thing I wanted to bring up under new business real quick. I would like the committee to start the process, this committee, to start the process of looking into what we need to do to start doing away with the residency requirements for positions within the county that are not mandated or elected. I think we just need to start moving that way. We've done it with the sheriff's office for their positions. We've done it for different positions. And I think it's just time that we at least look into what we need to do to start that process.
No, that sounds good. And I think as we had talked and some members of the committee had talked about, I'd like us to get together at maybe a different time and just talk about some things, create our list of things that we want to check off and get done this year as goals. Unfortunately, in the last week or so, some other pressing issues sort of took over the committee, which is part of our executive committee.
And that's fine, but I know some of these, and again, the legal are home rules, some are different, and take time to get done, and we're already going into April. I just want to
Do you have any thoughts on, okay, how about, you are so assigned to look into that.
So volunteered.
That's all I have.
No, I think that's a great idea, because I think it's something we need to be looking at down the road. Another thing we've actually talked about doing, again, just for the committee's edification, is exploring or looking at policy, or maybe it's a protocol, maybe it's a policy, I'm not sure, but in terms of what is or are the supervisor's roles as related back to management and chain of command and stuff like that, particularly with some of the issues that have come up with the chairman and myself and maybe some others. Sometimes those lines are not clear. And so I thought that's another thing we could and take a look at.
You're so appointed.
Okay. Okay. With that said, let's see what we got. Did we approve? We did approve, okay, the MEO position. All right, so do we go right from this to executive session? Okay. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Pursuant to section 105(1)(f) of the New York State Open Meetings Law, I move we enter into executive session to discuss personnel matters and invite the following individuals: all members of the Board of Supervisors, the county manager, the personnel officer, and representatives from the Burke Group.
So moved.
So is there a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We get some different beverages for executive session.